Uh-huh.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Eric.
Hey, what's up, man?
Not much. We're gonna stream some Contra games today.
Okay.
A lot of Contra games.
All of the Contra games?
All of the Contra games. I don't know if we're gonna stream all of them.
Look, man, if you need me to, get an emulator stuff sent up and send you some zip files, I'll do it.
No, I don't think... It's not that I don't have access to almost all of the Contra games. It's just... that I'm not sure I want to play all of the Contra games. But I'm going to play some ones that aren't good. In fact, I'm going to start with Arcade Contra. But right now, before we actually start...
You should play Shattered Soldier at some point.
I have that one. I will play that. But this is a charity stream to benefit the Trevor project, and you can see...
Are you streaming now?
I am streaming now. I should be streaming now.
Says you are.
It's good.
I pretty much see your crotch.
Yeah, I just adjusted the camera.
Good shot.
Thanks. The address is down. It should be in the description, and it's on the screen where you can go and contribute. When I play NES Contra, that's going to be the thing where I have a little bet with myself, and I might raise some extra money that way. But we'll get to that a little bit later. And of course, just because this is Pride Month and this is a stream to raise money for an LGBTQ charity, I'm just going to make it clear right up front that people are going to be monitoring the chat, and any shitty behavior is not going to be tolerated. This is the warning. You're not going to get a warning later. This is the warning. I've told everybody who can moderate the chat that they are... this is a zero tolerance thing. Don't be shitty. Don't be a homophobe. Don't be a transphobe. Don't be a TERF. Don't be any of that shit, because you're just going to get banned. We're not going to acknowledge it. We're not going to respond to your comment. You're not going to get a rise out of us. You're just going to get banned. So just don't do it. And that's that. That's your warning. So I'm going to start with Arcade Contra, and I've got my 8-bit due Super NES gamepad hooked up here. Hopefully the lag on it isn't too bad, or I might have to switch to my arcade stick. So let's see. I'm going to play normal for Arcade Contra, because I don't think hard or very hard on Arcade Contra is the best idea. You know. Please deposit coin. Last time I played this game, I played it with you.
Hey! I was there when we played Contra together.
Yeah, at
whatever that barcade was called.
I can't remember what headquarters.
It was all the fumes from being trapped in the parking garage afterwards.
Yes.
Went to my brain, and now I can't remember what it...
I think we watched an entire episode of Die Another Friday while waiting in line to get out of that parking garage. So, that was my lesson. That was the first time I had driven downtown Nashville on a weekend night. I will never do that again. That was a terrible idea. That was the last time I played this game. And we sort of determined that, everything that people say about this game is kind of correct. It's not a great Contra game. It definitely created a good precedent.
I mean, you just have to look at the difference between the way that they flip when they jump.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, that's a big part of it, right?
This is super loose, the form is really bad, and then the NES version, they tuck the legs and they really stick the landing.
Yeah, I mean,
they were in the NES version.
Right. They were in the Olympics. They were divers in the Olympics. They would get higher marks for the NES version. I just felt like the controls feel a little looser in the arcade game. The jumping, aside from the lesser form on the jumps, there's a little bit of floatiness, I feel like, to the jumps. They don't get as It doesn't feel like they go as far as the jumps don't. The jumping just something about it just feels off. And that might be because I've spent way more time with arcade Contra than I have, or with NES Contra than I have with arcade Contra.
I think it's pretty dope the way the soldiers moonwalk out of the room and just, sometimes. But other than that, there really isn't much to recommend this over the. I mean, NES Contra is one of the best video games of all time, so it's a pretty high standard to be held to.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it is the best video game of all time, which is part of why I'm doing this. I mean, also, like, you know, it's
probably saying there's a lot of echo going on.
There's a lot of echo from everything, or
on your mic. I wonder, do you have the YouTube stream running in the background, maybe?
No, I don't. I don't have the YouTube stream running in the background.
Let me turn it up. I'll check myself. Also, that link is not right. It's trevorproject.org.
What does it say?
It says .com.
Oh, jeez. Okay, I'll fix that.
Also, you can just change it to onthestick.com because that now redirects.
Oh, you did redirect it. Okay, cool.
Yep. I literally just did it. That's how I found out that the URL was wrong.
Okay.
So
I will correct that as soon as I can figure out how to pause this arcade game. Hitting the home button will always do it. Right? So, there we go. Give me one second.
Yeah, the game audio is fine. It is your mic that's echoing.
That's really weird. I don't know. It might be because it's turned up a little bit.
I wonder why.
Go down a little bit in the stream thing.
It's not. Once you stood up, it stopped doing it.
Well, that's because I moved away from it. So I should just move it further away from myself. Is what you're saying?
I don't know. That's weird. You don't have that. Your headphones don't have a mic on it, do it?
No.
Huh.
Unless it's like. No, that doesn't make sense. Alright, hang on.
I mean, I don't notice it in Discord anyway. I only notice it in the stream.
Well, sure.
It's still doing it on the stream.
How, like, what kind of echo are we talking about? Because I wonder, I'm not hearing it from your side, so that doesn't make any sense.
It's just a literal echo.
Like, you hear me and then you hear me say the same thing again a few seconds later? Or a second later, or...
There's like very little delay.
Okay. Well, alright, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna move the mic away from myself a little bit, and then I have to adjust the camera here.
Maybe check your OBS thing and see if there's a...
Yeah, I did, and I don't... I mean, I can...
because there is like a... You can set up like a repeater and a delay on that, but I don't know what the... I don't know, man.
Take a look at Discord real quick.
Looping the audio from the mic back into your own headphones so you can hear yourself.
Yeah. Huh. I wonder, and you're not echoing, it's just me.
Yeah, it's just you. The game audio, I mean, I sound great as always, obviously.
Of course.
Yeah.
I wonder if... This is the same setup I used when we streamed this week, and that was not a problem, so I don't know...
I wouldn't be you wouldn't be streaming if there wasn't a technical problem.
Some bizarre technical...
Hopefully you can figure it out before the stream is over.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I turned myself down in the streaming software a little bit, so... let's see... I can mess with the attenuation. I don't know if that... Let's bump that down a couple of decibels and see what happens. Okay, I've reduced the volume. I moved the mic away from myself. I tweaked some settings, so let me know if that's still happening. I don't know.
Nope, still doing it.
I wonder if...
I have to mute Discord when I'm listening, but it's still doing it. Hang on a second. That's why you gotta get here early, man. I was here like 20 minutes ago.
There we go.
Fix it?
Stupid. Right in front of my face. Yeah, I think I did. I think I had the... Well...
There, you fixed it.
Yeah. For some reason, the streaming software was using my webcam mic instead of my Blue Snowball. So now...
Hey, not only are you not echoing, you sound a lot better also.
I was going to say, that should fix a couple of things. All right. Come on, man. There we go. Okay, and I think I look fine. I mean, I always look good, but, like, I think I'm in frame properly and everything.
Yeah, I mean, all I see is a chair right now, but...
Give it a second.
Once the delay catches up.
So, I don't think I still have a phone with it on there, but I used to have a, like, kind of crappy mobile phone version of Contra that I got reasonably good at, actually, but it was only like 3 stages. But it was like a mobile phone port of the arcade version, which I didn't realize when I paid like the $2 or whatever for it. And it wasn't good, but I played a lot of it, and I feel like that's how I've most spent time with something that is arcade Contra-ish, is that mobile phone port that I used to play while I was like in the bathroom at work in like 2005. That's the most arcade Contra experience I have. It's also on the that DS Contra arcade collection that came out, you know, whenever the DS was relevant, which I do have, but because it's a vertically oriented monitor, as you can see. It actually, the way it plays on the DS, like it's so small, it's really hard to see, and you can turn the screen on the DS version, but then you have to hold your DS sideways, and like that ain't any kind of way to try to play a video game, you know. So I never really logged a ton of time there. I'm happy to report though that the lag on this controller, this Bluetooth controller I'm using, is not noticeable enough to like ruin this experience, which is good, because I was worried when I synced it up, like, like this could be bad, you know, but it's fine so far. Oh, so Eric, I was gonna ask everybody who comes on the stream today, what's your favorite? I think you already answered, but what's your favorite Contra game?
I mean, it's the NES one. And it's not really that close, honestly.
Yeah, but it's not... you like Alien Wars
Contra
as well.
3, Contra Hardcore, Super C, those are all good video games, but Contra is one of the best games of all time, in my opinion, so... You know.
Yeah, I'm with that. Mine is definitely NES Contra as well, if anybody's wondering. But I'm going to ask everybody who wanders into the voice chat today is going to be subject to that question. And we've got some people coming. Our friend Alexis, who has not joined us on a stream in quite some time. She's coming in a little while.
Without the podcast, we have not done a great job with guests and whatnot.
We really haven't. We had our friend David on for Genesis or Genesis isn't like one time, and that you're right. Other than that, we really have not done a great job keeping up with having our friends on for streams and stuff.
I have the mental energy to talk to people.
People with whom you aren't already like extremely familiar.
These days, yeah.
I
mean, Alexis and I freaking we streamed Hearthstone every day or every week for like.
Yeah, I was gonna say you guys were. Yeah, you guys were streaming Hearthstone together.
Anyway.
She's a Floridian now.
Oh, yeah,
I just found out. Yeah. Because she told me when we were scheduling, she's like, "Oh, we're in the same time zone now," and I was like, "Oh, I assume she just knows that I moved to Tennessee." And so then I said something yesterday about, oh, blah, 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 Central Time. And she's like, oh, did you actually mean, like, whatever time Eastern? I'm like, no, I thought we were in the same time zone now. She's like, yeah, I moved to Florida. I'm like, oh, I moved to Tennessee. So we crossed time zones, apparently. But she's going to be on later. And Carolyn Pettit, formerly of GameSpot and currently of Feminist Frequency and various other outlets, is going to be on this afternoon. I'm really looking forward to that because she has actually started her own YouTube channel aside from other stuff that she's doing with other folks that doing vintage game stuff, and she did a really great video on the original Castlevania and about how the sort of atmosphere and goal it creates by having that. You can see the castle in the background, you can see that weird little offshoot where Dracula lives in all the Castlevania games, which seems like an architectural impossibility, right? But you can see that
Dracula. It's magical architecture.
Right. You can see that as you kind of move through the game, and she talks about that. And she did a video on Outrun that I really enjoyed. So I'm really, really excited to have her come and hang out. And our old friend Jeremy Signer, who had kind of brought us together, really, back when Cast It Demon Head existed. And anybody who's watching this that gets that reference, you're the old school. Well, sure, but so he's gonna be around later, and yeah. Then mostly that's all because it felt weird to have a stream benefiting an LGBTQ charity and have a bunch of straight dudes just hanging out all day. So I wanted to have a little bit of representation on the stream. So we're doing that. And they're all going to get asked what their favorite Contra game is.
You make that sound like a threat.
It is. It kind of is. They're going to be put on the spot. You're going to be put on the spot. You're going to have to tell me what your favorite Contra is.
Contra.
Yes.
Boy,
I wish I could... Yeah, is anything going on in the chat? Aside from telling me that
I
was
echoing? A lot
echoing?
of things going on in chat, but I've only been kind of side-eyeing it here.
You haven't had to ban anyone yet, have you?
No.
Okay, good. Oh god, there's a timer. I took a drink of water and now I feel hurried.
There's a bunch of people mentioning the mic echo at the beginning. Oakland KO says it blew my mind that they sent out all those updates for the Konami anniversary collections this week.
I was really glad they did that, yeah.
Yeah, that was really good. Our expectations are so low for Konami that we just would expect them to like fart out some crappy ports and then just like leave them there forever and not do anything.
Yeah, honestly, the whole collection is a little better than what I sort of braced myself, especially because when the arcade one came out, it felt really half-assed. Like I did a whole stream where I was like, okay, here's what's in the collections, and like here's what's in the if you buy the individual arcade archives versions. Like that dude just jumped through my bullets and didn't die.
Yeah, there was some discussion about those various stuff in the chat.
But yeah, I'm really glad that they added that stuff this week because now it'll be easier for me to be able to play the Japanese version of Hardcore later instead of having to hook my Genesis up. Although I do have all my systems like ready to go, and I am actually, when I play NES Contra later, I'm going to do it on my actual NES because I don't want controller lag or anything to be a thing if I'm giving extra money for deaths and continues on that. I'm going to have it. I'm going to make sure it's as lag-free as possible. I'm just getting totally slaughtered here. As previously mentioned, much less familiar with Arcade Contra than I am with... Let's see, I should have killed the turrets before I killed all the jewels, because the turrets only take damage when they're open, and this one only seems to be opening at the most inopportune possible times. There we go. It's dead, but so am I. Okay. I think I'm about to run out of continues.
There's some talk about that Oakland KO person So it says Neo, which I assume means that their favorite Contra game is
Neo Contra. Yeah, Neo Contra's that. I find that to be an interesting answer myself, but it's a good. That's a decent one.
Yeah, that's one of the weirder Contras, along with Hardcore.
Yeah, I mean, and I think Neo's even weirder because Hardcore at least still plays like you kind of expect a Contra game to play for the most part, and Neo is like a top-down run and gun, basically. And also, remember, if we get to our $500 goal by midnight, then we're going to keep the stream going for an extra hour while I suffer through Legacy of War. So, get to giving some money for that, if that's a thing. There we go. I ran out of lives. I ran out of continues again. I keep stacking credits in here.
Some of their favorite Contra games. Simon Mejia says 3 Roman numerals, so I assume that's Contra 3. That game is too hard for me to really like it much. Yeah, Justin says Hardcore with the cheat codes. So yeah.
Right, the Japanese version of Hardcore, which has it gives you 3 hits when you. Well, we'll talk about it later, I guess. But yeah, you get a life bar. There's codes that let you get like 70 lives or something like that.
Yeah, Hardcore is dope as hell, but it is. That is also, those 2 games are a little bit.
The American version is ridiculous. You know, it's just. Yeah, the U.S. version is. Come on. See, this is the thing that's weird about this game. Like, just the way that the sprites are all kind of, like, so detailed that, like, I was standing next to that guy and, like, because the barrel of my gun extended past him, I was shooting past him, but then he instantly killed me.
Being shot at by a bunch of cyborg macho man.
Ooh, yeah. They all think I'm Hulk Hogan. Be a man, Hogan!
VTKC says, I was never any good, but I like Contra 3. Shattered Soldier is second favorite.
Shattered Soldier's, that's the hardest one, I think. That's the one that I've never gotten the true ending in Shattered Soldier. And I spent a lot, like when that game came out, I spent a ton of time. I had a friend who I've since had a pretty significant falling out with, but at that time I had a friend that was also really into Contra, and we played Shattered Soldier a lot. And you have to, like, the trick with Shattered Soldier is, like, you can't continue or you, like, lose, like, points, basically, and you have to score a certain level in each stage to get, like, you have a hit rate, it's called, and, like, if your hit rate isn't high enough in the first several stages, like, you just get a bad ending and you don't get to move on to the later stages. So you have to destroy everything, you have to kill every boss in a certain amount of time, and you can't continue or you, like, lose that stuff. So it just... That game really, really demands precision in a way that, you know, even other games in this series don't. And I still like it, but a lot of people didn't. And the thing that I actually honestly didn't like about that game was that you start with all your weapons. There's no power-up system. You just have 3 guns that you can always switch between, which I guess if you had to, like, farm weapons in that game on top of all that ridiculous stuff, that probably wouldn't be that fun. That would probably ruin it, but...
I never really cared. I played that game on a rental weekend many, many years ago. Didn't really think much of it, but...
Yeah, I mean, I totally get that. I totally get people not being into Shattered Soldier. But I liked it. It's
the worst game out there, but...
I think that Legacy of War is the worst Contra game out there.
I feel like
which is why it's the, like, C, the Contra Adventure is also bad, but at least C is a side-scrolling, like, it feels like Contra, and, like, I tested I had Legacy of War when when the PlayStation was a new thing. I got Legacy of War because I loved Contra, and it was garbage, and I returned it to Best Buy because it was so bad. Like, the same day, like, I played, like, 20 minutes of it, and I was like, this is awful. And I returned it. And
tested the copy that I just bought off of eBay for this marathon, just, because that's the goal, right? It's still awful. Like, wow, that, like, just the 10 minutes I played to make sure that it would, like, boot up and stuff, like, I almost want to say it was worse than I remembered. But I'm not going to talk about it too much because, there's an incentive for me to play it and yell about it later, so...
Yeah.
I'll save that for later, but that's a bad Contra game. I think that's probably the worst one. I'm hard-pressed to think of one that I think is even... I mean, the Contra Adventure is close. Honestly, the best Contra game on the PS1 is not a Contra game at all, but it's a game called One. I don't know if anybody's played that.
One is dope. I like One a lot.
One is dope. It's basically Contra on the PlayStation. Yep. And
it's better than all the Contra games on the PlayStation.
Better than the two Contra games. And what's really baffling about that is that's the same era of Konami that gave us, like, amazing entries in their other series that are, like, some of which are arguably the best entries in those series, right? Like, we got Castlevania Symphony of the Night from that era of Konami, and we got Metal Gear Solid from that era of Konami, and we got Gradius Gaiden from that era of Konami, and we got Sexy Parodius from that era of Konami, and, like, all those games are amazing, and, like, I would say that Gradius Gaiden and Sexy Parodius are, like, the best entries in their respective series, and, like, I'm just baffled at how we got, like, why they would take Contra and just be like, we'll just give it to the Echo the Dolphin people, and, like, it'll be fine. I don't know why I died there. Like, that just is a baffling move to me, that they would do all these amazing things with all their other franchises during the PlayStation era, and then they were like, whatever, who cares about Contra? Like, come on, guys, get it together. And so then it wouldn't be until the PS2 that we got Shattered Soldier and Neo Contra on the PS2, and those are pretty good. And then on the DS, we got Contra 4, which I'm not really set up to be able to... I've been meaning to look into hacking my Wii so that I can play DS games, or my Wii U, I'm sorry, so I can play DS games on it.
I can send you a thing that'll play DS games on your PC if you want to mess around with it later.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's pretty easy. I don't know. It's weird playing DS games on an emulator because it looks weird. I can't track bullets across the gap in the screen in that game anyway, so it's already a fucking nightmare. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like that game a lot. I've seen some people say that they think it's the best Contra, and while I respect that opinion... I think it is a very well-made Contra that is limited by the hardware that it's on. I would love, like I say, a Switch port that let you play it with... It would have to be more than a port. Yeah, it'd have to be more than a port, though, because you would have to... adjust the perspective and, like, put the two screens back together in a way that didn't... Yeah, take away the gap.
Right, that takes away the gap so you can see and track stuff easier or whatever, but...
Yeah.
That is a great looking and great playing game. It's just... I don't like playing it on a DS.
Yeah, I've been meaning to really revisit it on my... I have an XL now, which I never... Mm-hmm. Like, for years, I did not have a... This boss sucks in this version of the game. Holy crap. Okay.
He's got to shoot the bubbles.
Yeah.
This boss always sucks if you don't have a gun that has a little...
If you're not properly armed for... Wow.
Yeah. I mean, even just, like, fire or something makes that boss a lot easier, because it's easier to hit the bubbles.
Yeah, this is exactly what the problem is with arcade Contra, is it's just, like, merciless in a way that even... I mean, a lot of people think the NES game is merciless, but, like... The NES game can't...
The NES game is one of the easier Contra games, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a hard game, but it's definitely one of the easier games in this series. And, like, this arcade hardware is a lot less limited, it feels like, so you just get, like, it's just sending stuff at you to the point where it's like, how there's no, like, I would have to practice this game so much to figure out how to avoid some of this stuff.
I mean, to be fair, that's how you get good at Contra and all the other entries as well.
Sure, but the thing about Contra...
This game's just not as much fun to play as those, I don't think.
Right. The thing about original Contra, NES Contra... is that with the 30 life code, you can credit feed your way... Like, you do have limited continues, but, like, you can feed your way through that game pretty effortlessly, right? Like, even if you're terrible, it's unlikely that you're going to run out of lives and continues.
Enter the 30 life code and just hold down the right button on your D-pad, and you might get to the end.
Yeah, you might be able to just abuse your invincibility frames enough to get to the end. And then, like, that's how I got good at it, right? Because when you're a little kid and you haven't yet figured out how to be good at video games, right? You just credit feed through everything that will allow you to do that. But Contra was so much fun and so, like, relatively short that it was just like, okay, well, we'll use the 30 life code and then we'll just, like, feed our way through it over and over and over again. And then that's how I eventually got really good at it, is just because, like, I had a friend who lived across the street from me when I was little, and we both had Contra, and we both liked Contra, and, like, whenever there was a game that we didn't have, like, a game on rental that we liked, or we didn't, like, there was nothing else out, we would just play Contra again, and, like, just keep playing Contra, and eventually you're still using the code, but then you're like, I didn't actually need all 30 of those lives to get through this game. But this game, with the limited lives and limited continues, like, that's the thing, right? Is, like, I appreciate a lot of the more modern shooters and ports of shooters where it's like, you can continue, but your score doesn't count. Like, you can credit feed through, like, the Switch version of Ikaruga, but, like, your score doesn't go on the leaderboard, right? But you can do it so you can, like, practice the hard parts.
Right.
Because that's the thing, like, you get to a certain point, and then you're like, well, I can't practice the part that's difficult without using a save state, which I guess actually I could do, and this version has a save state thing. You know, but it's like, you get to the hard part, and then you die, and then you have to do the easy part again, which takes 15 minutes, or whatever, or however long, you know, to get back to the hard part, so you can try learning it again, and then you die, and then, you know, rinse, repeat. So, you know, that on a lot of these early Konami arcade games follow that sort of credit muncher formula of, like, yep, you're gonna get to the hard part, and then you're gonna die, and then you're gonna have to do the whole game over again to get back to the hard part, so you can practice it a little bit, and then you're gonna die, and then, you know, rinse, repeat forever and ever. So I actually recently replayed Gradius 2 on the arcade anniversary collection that they put out, and, like, man, that game hates you. Like, that is a game that is just like, yep, you're gonna get to the hard part, and then you're gonna die, and good luck. To the point where at the end I started saving at checkpoints, because I was just like, you know what? I don't feel like doing the whole final stage gauntlet again, because I've gotten to the point where I can do it flawlessly every time, and now it's just a time sink. So I'm just going to save at the checkpoint, because I know that I can do that part. I just want to stop doing that part, because I know how to do it. So it's just a waste of time for me to do it again.
Let's see.
Yikes. Yeah, what's going on? Anything going on in the chat?
Well, Oakland KO reminds that Akira Yamaoka did the soundtrack for Shattered Soldier, which I've heard that before, and I think we've talked about it on something or whatever, and I always mean to go and listen to it now that I have an ear for his music. And
I mean, it doesn't sound
it
doesn't sound like Silent Hill music,
no.
if that, you know. But yeah, yeah, that's right.
A good composer, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see. Some more talk about the hit rate stuff. Because it says that Neo had it also, but...
Yeah, I feel like Neo, it was a little more forgiving. Yeah, it was a little more forgiving in Neo.
K2 Montgomery says 3DS XL is great for DS games.
Yeah, and you can force boot them into their original
crappy,
pixel ratio if you want to.
Screen on the top also, which is nice.
Yeah.
Screen always looks a little weird with the articulated, or whatever. What is that called? Lenticulated. Sorry.
Yes.
Not articulated. The lenticular screen always looks a little weird.
Yeah, well, I got a 2DS XL, a new 2DS XL because, like, of course, the naming convention is just as terrible as it could possibly be. But because I just realized, like, I don't use the 3D. Like, I turn it on to see what the game is doing with it, and then I immediately turn it off. Like,
there's that one Mario game that had some cool 3D stuff.
There's that one Mario game that really... Well, there was some stuff in Link Between Worlds. There was some stuff.
There's some stuff where, like, it helps some of the areas where you can go in the wall pop out a little better, but for the most part, it's...
Well, there's some stuff where you have to, like, float down
ice dungeon. Yeah, there's, like, that ice dungeon with the multiple levels where, like, some of that stuff...
Some of that, yeah.
I don't know if it really helps you play it or not.
The only sections where I felt like it helped me, it made a gameplay difference, were the sections where you had to, like, float down the little, like, they're like wind tunnels, and you, like, float down them, and you, like, there's certain things you have to grab on certain levels. I remember using the 3D.
I don't remember
for
that, so I should go play that game again, because that game's real good.
Yeah, that game was real good. Yeah, that was where I got the most use out of the 3D effect in that game, and then yeah, like you said, there's a stage or two in Mario 3D Land where it's like, oh, that's a good thing to have on right now.
K2 Montgomery says, I used Game Genie all the time as a kid. That's probably why I never got good at video games. But, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't have a Game Genie, and I'm not that great at video games anyway, so...
I'm good at very specific kinds of video games, and I'm bad at other very specific kinds of video games.
Higher in the chat says... Jakage says, watching Joe play video games always makes me realize how bad I am at video games. At the time I was going to say, watching Joe play Contra reminds me that Joe's a lot better at Contra than I am, but I
mean, it depends. Yeah, it depends on the game. I'm pretty good at shoot 'em ups, I'm pretty good at running guns, and I'm pretty bad at a lot of other stuff, so don't feel... when games transition to 3D, I got pretty bad at a lot of the... Like, Eric's a lot better than me at Overwatch, I'll tell you that for sure. Like,
yeah, I mean, I've also played like 5 times as much, but
yeah, but even like at the beginning, you were better than me. When we both only played like 12 hours of it, you were still better at it than I was. And like, maybe it's a patience thing, but I think you're a lot better at Dark Souls games than I am.
Right.
I don't know.
Some people just have different skill sets.
Yeah.
And also, you know what? Video games are just a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
I also think that because of the way that, like, a very specific type of gameplay footage and stuff tends to float to the top on Twitch and YouTube. You have like what bad at video games is probably not. You don't ever see anybody who's ever actually bad at video games play video games.
Yeah, that's true. It's pretty rare to see someone who is like a total scrub actually put their... I mean, and then when they do, they just get, like, lambasted for it, right? Like, when Dean Takahashi wasn't good at Cuphead, like, that started a firestorm among certain segments of the internet population that was just totally insufferable. So, you know, it's understandable that people who aren't great at... Or it's people play... Like, the angry video game nerd plays bad on purpose, right? Like, that's kind of part of the gag, is that, like, he sucks at video games.
Oakland KO says 1987 arcade games by Konami in America are honestly just not fun.
A lot of them are not.
Releases are fine in America. No, that's true of some of their NES games and stuff too. I don't know why.
Yeah, you know what?
It was a good idea to make a lot of those games more difficult when they brought them over, especially because even the Japanese versions of them are pretty difficult. But
yeah, they really did. Let's check out the Japanese version of Arcade Contra. I think that's on here.
Okay. That sounds like a good idea.
Let's see if they're gonna go a little easier on me here. No, watch, I'm gonna beat this in like one try.
KT Montgomery says Haunted Castle wasn't nearly as bad as I'd always heard.
So I think that the European and Japanese versions of Haunted Castle are fine. Like, it's a kind of boring.
Fine-ish, yeah.
Like, it's not a super interesting game, but it's not like the US version where, like, you just take like a third of your health bar if you get hit by a brick or something. Like, that isn't I don't think that game's very fun. But the Japanese version is I think eminently playable, but still kind of boring and like not just... It's just not... Every level is just like a straight line, like, and like most of the console Castlevania games are not that, right? Like most of the console Castlevanias there's stairs and there's levels and tiers and there's moving around and there's traps and like there's not very much of that in Haunted Castle. It's very much like walk directly to the right and whip everything that gets in your way.
Yeah.
Without a lot of like going up and down the stairs, and there's not a lot of vertically oriented sections like there are in the sort of the NES games. And that's actually, speaking of adding the Japanese versions and how much easier they are, the version of Castlevania that they added to this collection for the NES, the Japanese version, is the cartridge version, not the disc system version, which has an easy mode, which turns off the knockback. So if you're one of those people who is like, man, this game is so tough,
That's
I hate getting knocked into the pit.
game.
Yeah, right. It turns into something completely different at that point. So
fuck all these birds and all these bats and all these Medusa heads. They fucking own this world.
yeah, I'll just walk through them and use my invincibility frames. Like, it doesn't matter. If you have enough health. Yeah, so if you've struggled with original Castlevania, which I had not beaten until recently, actually, I had made it to Dracula many times, and I had never, like, sincerely, never been able to beat
Dracula.
Dracula.
That's the hardest Dracula fight in any Castlevania game.
Oh, for sure. I was sort of playing through. So what I've been doing with my Switch lately is I've been playing a lot of stuff like
death in that game is maybe harder than Dracula if you don't have
holy water and the triple shot. Yeah. But what I've been doing is I've been playing a lot of games on my Switch on the couch while my wife and I watch either, like when the Caps were still in the playoffs, when we were watching Caps hockey, or watching the Brewers, or before the Bucks just like went under in the final, in the semifinals. But we were watching. Like we would watch sports, and I would play. Because I'm not a huge sporto. I like baseball a lot, but other than that, so I'd play Switch games while we hang out and kind of chat and watch, to have sports on and whatever. So I was playing through all of the Castlevania games on the. I'm in the middle of Castlevania 3 right now. Now that the Japanese versions are out, and playing Akumaju Densetsu. But I played through all those Castlevania games, and I would say that, without question, the original Castlevania is the hardest Dracula fight. And it's not close.
Fair.
Super C. Super Castlevania 4 is it's similar, but you don't have to do the second phase. You don't have to fight the.
That game's a cakewalk compared. That's one of the easiest Castlevania games.
Yeah. Yeah.
Outside of Symphony of the Night.
Even Bloodlines, which has you have to fight there's a section where you have to do a couple bosses in a row, and the death fight is kind of also a boss rush at the same time. But if you lose a life, you don't have to
start over at the beginning.
Right. If you kill,
go right to the death.
You just go right to fighting death. Yeah, and then you have to fight Camilla, but she's actually Elizabeth Bartley, who is definitely not based on real life Countess and murderess Elizabeth Bathory. Yeah. She's actually really easy. Her attack pattern is really ridiculously simple, and it's actually kind of hard to die on her. And then you have to fight Dracula. And Dracula has the two forms, but they're not. It's not the same as any. The timing and what you have to do to avoid the fireballs, while also. Oh, come on. What you have to do to avoid the fireballs.
Is that top thing a power up? Is that what that's for? That little top button up there?
No, that's how you destroy the wall. That's the weak point. There's a hard. It's easier than original Castlevania. The final boss in Contra games, though, is usually very easy, right? In a lot of situations, the lead up is hard, but the actual final confrontation is sort of like Gradius. I just played Operation C because I'm working on a video, so I played through Operation C last week a couple times. And there's a thing that you fight before the end.
Did you get the water off the knee?
Yes, I did, and I also removed the bread basket.
All right, good.
But the actual final confrontation is just a brain in a jar. It's even easier than Contra's heart monster, because it doesn't have pods at the top and bottom that attack you. It's literally just a brain in a jar that you shoot until it explodes. It's very Gradius in that way.
Let's see. Simon Mejia says rentals are the reason games in the U.S. are harder.
Yep. I mean, so in some cases.
Yeah, in some cases. I mean, it's weird because there's like some NES versions of games that are easier for American audiences, and that's why we got Final Fantasy fucking Mystic Quest, right? Because the other ones were too difficult.
Well, and Final Fantasy 2 is much easier in the US than the original Japanese release, which I'm actually fine with because I don't really need to add a bunch of grinding to my Final Fantasy 4 experience.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the old RPGs, that's difficulty is just play it more to level your characters up more.
Right. Speaking of...
Fox says, is it even Castlevania at that point? I assume referencing the removing the knockback, which, you know...
I mean, that's the... You know, I mean, I'm the guy who played... I was really appreciative that when they did Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, that they had an option to play without the knockback. I think that's really cool. But I left it on, right? So I'm that guy.
Yeah.
But I think I totally get...
Joe and I have had this discussion a lot, but it's nice to give people difficulty options. Although I think in the case of Castlevania, it might be better to do like more iframes or something, rather than remove the knockback entirely.
Yeah, but there's a lot. I mean, again, I just played it not that long ago, and it really felt like there were times where the only way you were losing a life is when you got knocked into a pit, right? Like you wouldn't run out of life, or I wouldn't run out of life. I would just get knocked into a pit.
Don't you gotta be careful out there. A lot of Medusa heads, and they're real jerks.
Also, the knockback is really punitive in the original Castlevania. Like,
all three of those games. Yeah.
It's like, you know, beyond. Oh God! Oh, there we go. It's above and beyond what you see in Ninja Gaiden or Mega Man, which are also games with knockback. But Castlevania, like Simon leaps backwards when he takes a hit, and it's like.
Rondo of Blood is the best one.
Rondo of Blood's a pretty good Castlevania.
Yeah. I love 3.
Wow, that stage is a lot shorter in the arcade version.
Just better play. Let's see.
Oh, those aren't separate stages.
K2 Montgomery says, of course, I've still never played Symphony of the Night.
Oh, you should.
What? If you like those types of games, or you think you might like that game, you should play it. It's pretty good.
That's a pretty good video game.
I don't want to tell people what to do with their time. That's a fun game. It's pretty laid back. You can just kind of like walk around and hit things with swords and nunchucks and
bigger swords
or a big castle. Yeah.
I think the thing that this came up recently. You know, there are certain people who are like, "Oh, that game's too easy. That's why it's not like the best ever." It's too easy. There's too many ways to like break it wide open. And I'm like, no, man, that's what's good about it. It's like there's like 5 different ways you can become practically invincible. And that's why it rules. Like you can use the shield rod. I think Alex and I were talking about this on stream recently. Yeah. But like the shield rod plus Alucard sword is like ridiculous. The shield rod in general actually is pretty ridiculous. Like, or like the Chrysogrim, or you can like you can grind out the Muramasa, the bloodthirsty sword. Like there's a section early in the game where you can just sort of like stand there and shoot at. Sorry, I've got Contra on the brain as I'm playing Contra. You can just sort of hang out there and like murder mermen, and they splatter blood on your sword, and like gain enough levels that you have like a pretty ridiculously overpowered piece of equipment, like very early in the game. If you have the patience to do that. Come on.
Falkenhayn says hi there, which I'm only mentioning because that's a fucking dope-ass name. I don't know if it has roots in some video game or anime or something that I'm not familiar with, but...
I don't know, but it's pretty good.
I like saying it. Simon Mejia says, Super Castlevania 4, Rondo, and Bloodlines are the best classic Vanias. Castlevania 3 is a runner-up. Castlevania 4, I think it's pretty good. I think that there's some weirdness in it. I don't really care for it. I think the soundtrack is like really good sometimes and really annoying sometimes.
The free jazz flute music in the water level I don't love, but a lot of the organ stuff I think is really good and atmospheric.
Can't go wrong with the noodle whip. I love the noodle whip.
Yeah,
it's great innovation in Castlevania gameplay. Yeah, there's some stuff in that game I really love, and I think there's some stuff in that game that I don't like that much. But it is a good and fun game to play. I don't like Bloodlines that much at all. I think that's one of the weaker Castlevanias. I like how weird a lot of the enemy designs are, but I also don't like how weird a lot of the enemy designs are.
You don't like the Segway Knight?
There's the masturbating Segway Knight is kind of a bummer. I mean, it's funny, but it just looks really dumb. There's a lot of dumb, like the Clockwork Knight thing that moves super awkwardly is the same way. It's like fun in a dumb way, but it's just ugly and stupid.
See, I like all that stuff. I like Bloodlines a lot.
It's because it's campy. It's like camp. It's not like actually good.
I like Bloodlines more than Castlevania 4.
Palace of Versailles, the Palace of Versailles level is one of the worst levels in all of the Castlevania games. It's just like, there's that super long hallway where the chandeliers fall on your head, and you just fight Axe Knight after Axe Knight for like 45 minutes.
I just replayed that one. It's definitely not 45 minutes, but your point is taken.
It's a bad level, right? It's a poorly designed level. There's a lot of stuff in that game I feel like is like that. A lot of real flat levels where you're just walking forward and whipping stuff, and it's only difficult because it takes a lot of hits to kill the enemies.
I think there's some of that, but I really like the Leaning Tower of Pisa stage. There's a lot of vertical sections that are really interesting.
Also, Fuck Limited continues.
Yeah, I don't love that, but that game at least has passwords. So if you run out of continues, you can restart at the beginning of whatever stage you lost continue.
Spear guy is pretty cool. There's some cool stuff in that.
Yeah, game. I like playing as Eric.
Personally, I don't like it that much. It is no Bloodlines.
It is Bloodlines. You just said that. You were just.
Sorry, it's no Rondo of Bloodlines.
Yeah, I don't think it's as good as Rondo of Blood, but I think it's better. I like it more than Super Castlevania 4, honestly. But I also like Super Castlevania 4 a lot.
It has a dope-ass rotating room.
That's true. It doesn't have that, but it does have the weird It has that weird
staircase, but you can't ride the staircase around behind it, so it's bullshit.
No, that's true. But it does have the weird divided House of Mirrors level where you're.
Yeah, but that boss sucks. It has Business Frankenstein.
It does have Business Frankenstein. That's true.
I don't know.
And everybody loves Business Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Oops, someone's here. Who's here?
I know. I like Castle. I think Rondo and 3 are the two top tier of that style
of the non-Metroid style.
And then everything after that is a tier down from that. But
I think I mean Castlevania 3 is fantastic. I still don't get why Mike hates it so much. The Japanese version especially, yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Poet Fox makes an interesting argument saying that the only good Castlevania is Portrait of Ruin because it's the only game with a dedicated Jonathan.
Press X to Jason.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
That's the important part.
That's right.
That's all I did in that game anyway.
She's here.
What's up?
Oh, hi.
Hi, Alexis.
How's it going?
It's going well.
How's the Contra going?
Part of me is I want to beat this fucker, and part of me is about to be let's just move on to a different game.
You can always come back. 12 hours is a lot.
That's true. 12 hours is a lot of Contra. Alexis, I've threatened that I'm going to ask everybody this, so I'm going to ask you, what's your favorite Contra game?
What's my favorite Contra game? I mean, it's probably just the original because it's probably the one I've played the most.
The original meaning NES, not arcade, right?
Oh yes, the original meaning NES. Yeah, playing with my brother way back in the day. It was probably the biggest exposure I had to it. I don't know. I'm game baby, so I don't know if I've ever really gotten too hard into the Contras, but what are you gonna do?
I feel like there are games that you have. See, we were talking about this a little bit before. I don't know if you were watching, but I feel like there are games that I don't even know what hit me. That's another problem with this game. The bullets sometimes blend in with the background, and the NES version really did a good job of fixing that.
Pop a lot better.
But I feel like there are games that you have sunk way more time into, Alexis, than I ever would or could. So I don't know that you're your self-labeling as a game baby is fair to yourself.
I mean, I guess that's probably true. I don't know. Like, I don't know. All I've done since like, all I've done is play Monster Hunter since like middle of last year.
There you go. I
The
just,
new one, World?
I got into it bad.
You talking about the new one, the most recent World?
Yes.
I think, right?
yeah,
Okay.
Monster
Yeah.
Hunter.
So I played like. I mean, my brother's like, oh, Monster Hunter World's on sale. And I'm like, yeah, I owned it. I didn't really play much of it. We could play together, and then we both like got super into it. Played like 70 hours of it, and then like for my birthday, he's like, here, I got you Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate on the Switch. And I'm like, oh, cool. And then we put like another like.
Oh, nice.
Then we put like 90 hours into that, and then like.
How was
they
that
announced
one?
They announced Iceborne, and then we're like, oh well, shit. Now we got to go back to World and get our gear ready. And so we've been
You gotta fight that moose.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, good news.
Kill that ice moose.
And then they came out with Fortnite, but Monster Hunter called Dauntless, and then I'm like, well, I just gotta play that. So I played a lot of that.
How is that?
It's very much like Monster Hunter Lite. Like it's just literally like you just hit a button, you're with 4 people, and you don't need to coordinate and strategize quite as much. You just kind of would hit the monster. And there's way less weapons, but they're way easier to use. Except for the sword. Don't use the sword because it's really boring.
Ah,
All right. Isn't God Eater also like kind of that? Monster
I
Hunter
haven't
Light.
tried it.
that's
Maybe.
the anime Monster Hunter.
Okay. Well, Monster Hunter is pretty anime already.
Yeah, I'm like, can you be more animated than the actual Monster
You should,
Hunter? I don't know.
you should check out God Eater.
I will have
Coffee
to
played
do
a
that.
bunch of the third one recently. He liked it quite a bit, I think, but it didn't have quite the legs that the actual Monster Hunter games did.
The thing that's weird for me about Monster Hunter is like I bought, because everybody bought it last year and everybody was playing it. Coffee was really into it, and so I bought it and we all played it a few times. And I don't know. I feel like I want it to play. Like conceptually, I'm interested in the idea of like getting all the gear and doing the stuff, but it's so stiff. It feels so stiff to me. Like I want it to play like Devil May Cry. And not like kind of like Dark Souls, but more like it's less Dark Souls and more Devil May Cry. But I want it to be just like Devil May Cry or Bayonetta. Like that's what I want that game to be, and obviously that's not what it is. So I don't know. I petered out after like 10 hours.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. Dual blades are kind of Bayonetta. You jump around.
That was the weapon I was using. That was
there you go.
what I was going with for sure.
Yeah, it's very deliberate in sort of how everything is set up. And again, like I got it like fairly close to release and then bounced off it, and then again, like I said, my brother got into it, and I'm like, okay, I'll try it again, and then for whatever reason it stuck. Because I guess we just had each other to like talk strategy with, and then we sort of all fell into it. But
Yeah.
That game has some dope armor.
Yeah, I mean, there's some cool stuff going on there for sure. I just, like you said, Alex, I think it bounced off of it is probably the best way to. I mean, I still played probably 10-ish hours of it before I finally was like,
That's a lot for you. That's not a Resident Evil game.
or a Metal Gear game,
Yeah.
or Contra game. Yeah, I mean, it depends on what the thing is, but yeah, for me to put in a lot of hours on a game, I have to at least kind of be enjoying it, which I was. I mostly was enjoying playing it with you guys. Like, it was, I think it was like me and you and Kurt and Coffee, I think, were playing like
Alex
a fair amount. Alex played a lot of it. I don't think I played with Alex that much, though, because his work schedule is all weird. But okay, I'm going to move on to something else, because I'm just like beating my head. I made it further last time than I did this
It's also
time.
difficult to play these games and talk.
And talk, yeah,
It
true.
requires a certain amount of concentration.
True.
sorry, I'm so interesting.
You are, though.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a lot of it was sort of realizing that it's like very much not about your hunter, at least for me. But then again, I'm the person who writes about dragons and stuff, so it's like, oh, it's just like hundreds of dragons, and I love them, and they're all great.
You have to kill the dragons. How do you feel about that?
Well,
But then you get to wear the dragons.
You only technically have to kill the Elder Dragons. You can capture all of the dragons.
Okay.
And the Elder Dragons are all dicks, so... I guess they're all dicks, I don't know. But...
I'm gonna do some NES Super C. That's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna switch gears to play some NES games.
Sounds good.
Sorry, I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to.
Oh no, you're good. You're the one doing the Contra. You gotta get that Contra going.
I'm doing the Contra. It's true.
Contra.
Super C has the best fire power up. That's the thing about. Look at those bullets flashing. I can see where the bullets are because they're flashing. Yeah, Super C has the best fire power up, which I think.
Coffee posted in the Discord chat. I heard Monster Hunter. I don't know if he's here or watching the stream, but maybe he just has like some kind of weird Monster Hunter radar.
Yeah, I think that's probably part of it. He also can come into the voice chat if he wants, but I think he's playing Final Fantasy with somebody, maybe.
Probably.
So, Alexis, I wanted to ask if you had any thoughts or any info or anything about the charity that this is for. Are you familiar with the Trevor Project? Are you?
Yeah. It's. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm like super familiar, but it's they've. It came from a good place, and it's still been going. It's still been going strong, and I think that's great. This idea that it does get better. It does get better. You have to, it's we live in a terrible hell world, but it gets better. Kind of go through it, and it's good to get that message out there and to help people.
Yeah.
Find how that works. My life has been a weird quagmire of that stuff where it's like it feels like every couple of years I'm like, I don't think the me of a couple of years ago would have believed where I am now.
Yeah.
Going back who knows how far, so it's good to have like a place where people can go to talk to people that have been in the same place. And,
oh, definitely.
Yeah.
To have that resource exist is really important.
Yeah, that's the reason that I chose it is just because I definitely know people who have needed someone to talk to in rough times and that kind of thing, and it's just I feel like in 2019 maybe especially if you are part of the LGBTQ community and you're a young person, the world might not feel super welcoming. No thanks in no small part to the people who are running the United States right now. Who are not like Mike Pence. Whether you're a Republican or Democrat or whatever, like Mike Pence is his feelings about the LGBTQ community are like on record and they're vile, and like that's not a person that I really love being in any position of power when they have those those opinions.
AIDS outbreak, so
Right. Abstinence only education definitely works and definitely has not been harmful to anybody. And yeah, like recently, I don't want to get bogged down in this because I do want this to be more upbeat than not, but recently there was apparently Pence decided that the United States embassies are not allowed to fly the pride flag in June. So that's ridiculous and bogus and stupid and backwards thinking and all that stuff. So
it's just petty.
It's petty. It is really petty. I'm sad because when I lived in D.C., there was at least one instance of a gay dance party happening like down the block from his house. Because when you live in D.C., you kind of know where all these people live. And there was like a big gay dance party, and I didn't go because I didn't know about it until after it happened. But I definitely would have gone to a big gay dance party in the street down the road from Mike Pence's house. Because, yeah, man, fuck that guy. Anyways, I didn't mean for things to get... That's right. I think there's a lot of value to dancing in many contexts, so...
I agree.
But...
My dog doesn't agree. He doesn't like me dancing. He yells at me whenever I dance.
Why? What does Mr. Q got against dancing?
Yeah, is it dancing in general, or is it just your dancing?
I think it's just my dancing. Because, like, if I'm, like, I don't know, like, doing chores and I'm, like, putting on some loud music and I'm like, you know what? I've washed these dishes and now it's time for a dance break. And he'll just start barking at me. He's like, stop it. Back to work. I'm like, that's okay. What are you doing?
Yeah,
Real
that's...
fast now.
Yeah, come on, Q, get with it. See, my dogs like to dance, and my little dog, if you offer her a treat, she will stand on her hind legs and do a dance for you, and do a pirouette to get a treat. So, and the big dog, if you invite him up and he will hop up and give you his paws, and you can dance with him.
And then he'll give you a free T-shirt and Superman punch you in the face.
Yes.
Because he is the big dog.
He is the big dog. Man, wrestling's real bad now, huh? I shouldn't say that. WWE is real bad now. Huh.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
used to watch wrestling. Alexis?
Yes, yeah. We got really into it for a while, and then WWE's like, oh, I know, let's
Be terrible.
and have Hulk Hogan back and a lot of things, and we're just like, you know what, that's okay.
Let's put on we'll put on a bad show, and B, we'll do a bunch of like horrible, corrupt things in order to make us more money.
We'll take a bunch of money from the Saudi government to...
Right.
Yeah, I refuse to watch those shows. And then they managed the double whammy of... we'll have a show in Saudi Arabia, and that will be the show where we bring Hulk Hogan back, like, simultaneously. That
Yeah,
was
it
just...
a brilliant move, really.
Yeah, that was just like, okay, I don't, but there's a pay-per-view tomorrow, and I think instead of sitting through that, I'm going to go see The Wild Bunch at my local movie theater, which is doing a revival screening of The Wild Bunch, because that sounds like a better use of my time
Sounds good to me.
than watching...
I've canceled my membership.
You finally did!
Yeah, I've been talking about it for a long time, and I finally pulled the trigger. Ugh.
Oh,
I just
come
don't
on.
want to give them money anymore.
Yeah.
I'll find a reverse mirror image illegal stream of coffee. That way.
Well, I feel like I didn't buy the most recent AEW show, but I think I might buy the next one, and watch that. And I'm really excited for when their weekly TV starts.
Yeah, I was gonna say wait for not the Fighter Fest, but the one after that, that's the one with the Kenny Omega John Moxley match and Chris Jericho and
Right. Hangman Page.
Hangman Page for the title.
Yep.
I don't really know a lot of those people, but
Hangman Page is mostly a Japanese. I mean, he isn't Japanese, but he wrestles mostly in Japan. Like that is.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd seen him in some Japan thing before that.
Yeah.
I saw a double of that thing. I did watch that.
Oh, you did.
How was
you
it?
like
Yeah, how did you like it?
I thought it was pretty solid. Like, I thought they did a really, I got into it from like NXT actually having women's wrestlers, and so I thought they did really good by all the women on the show, and the whole
Yeah.
show was just fun.
They brought out Awesome Kong. That was a freaking awesome.
Yeah, it was really rad. Like, they had a lot of, like, in the same way that you would do in men's matches all the time. They're like, oh, here's this legend. Oh, it's so scary. And, like, they did that twice in their women's match. That was great.
Yeah.
They treated them mostly with the respect. They just treated them like wrestlers.
Right.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
just competitors.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It was
Except
also
for Jim Ross, who has a hard time getting his head around the concept of women's wrestling sometimes.
Yes.
he's an old timer. That's not necessarily an excuse, but give him a little bit of time. He should come around eventually. We hope. Also, it was really cool to see Nyla Rose get on like a national stage.
Yeah, she's rad. I was really pumped about that.
And
Considering all I really knew about her before was like a single hilarious tweet, so...
what was the single hilarious tweet?
Like, someone asked her, like, how do you spot a transgender? And then she just had a whole instruction on how to spot someone doing bench press, and I'm like, I thought that was great.
Oh, I get it.
It was very pleasing.
I get it.
Like, good
Yeah.
job.
Yeah. If they ask for help, then you help them lift the barbell back on the thing. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Who in this year of our Lord 2019 even says a transgender, right? Who refers to a person that way?
Someone being a dick.
Right.
Someone actively trying to be a dick, probably.
Well, also people who just are dumb.
I guess that's
I mean, I would hope for benign ignorance and not someone trying to be a dick, but, you know. If it was Twitter, probably someone trying to be a dick.
yes.
Yeah.
It's pretty safe to assume on Twitter. That's what Twitter's all about.
Being a dick.
I don't.
Yeah.
Is Lucha Underground still around?
I think so. I think they are.
I don't.
But I think they're between, because they do seasons, right? Like, it's like an actual
Yeah.
TV show. They don't
I know.
just, like,
I just-
run their workers ragged for
On
200.
that AEW show, that the Young Bucks and the Lucha Brothers, that was my favorite. I think that was the best actual.
Oh yeah, that
match
was
on
a
the
really
show.
good match.
Yeah. That Ray Phoenix and Pentagon Jr. were like those two guys are. Because that's where I first saw them was on Lucha Underground.
Same.
Not wrestling together, but that's a hell of a tag team. Even more so, I don't know if I'd ever seen the Young Bucks really outside of YouTube clips and stuff either, but I was way more impressed with the other team. They were both really good.
Yeah.
I would be very excited for a company that takes tag team wrestling seriously because I like my favorite.
You know, it's funny you should mention that, because I just read a report that the Revival are refusing to sign their new WWE contract.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Well, it's clear that they're trying to, like, butter them up.
Long-running feud, right?
Right. They're-
Yeah.
Fuck the Revival. There's, like, clearly there's some sort of buttering up happening now, though, because they put the tag titles on them, and they're apparently involved in, like, the Shane McMahon nonsense, which is complete garbage. But, I mean...
He's the
Shit.
best wrestler in the world, Joe. He won the tournament.
I read a rumor that they're thinking about hanging the fucking title on him, and I'm just
Sure, why
like,
not?
fuck everything. Like, this is... You have a roster that is completely stacked, and you're like, we'll put it on a 50-year-old non-wrestler. That's what we'll do. Like, the heat on that angle
I mean, he looks
ran
pretty
out.
puffy these days. He kind of looks like a wrestler.
Kinda-
He looks like an old wrestler that took steroids for too long.
Yeah, right. Anything going on in the chat?
He's also starting to get the Hulk Hogan hot dog scene. Not since we started talking about wrestling.
We killed the chat by talking about wrestling.
I could type something in the chat about wrestling. I don't know what I... There we go. Done. Fixed.
Now there's
The most
something in the
exciting thing
chat.
for me in the whole show was catching a glacier sighting in the casino battle royale at the very beginning.
Yeah, right. That was on the pre-show, right?
The only thing that would have been better is if Ice Train had been there.
What was the tag team? Ice Train and...
Fire and Ice.
Fire and Ice,
Scott
right.
Nuts. What's his face? He was the oh god, the pit fighter guy.
Was it Scott Norton?
Yes.
It was
No,
Scott Norton.
yes. I think so.
Scott Flash Norton before he became
Yes.
the NWO Scott Norton. I read a recent interview, a translation from Shmuplations, which is a fantastic website if you're into video game history. I read a recent thing that they had translated with some guys who used to work. It was like an anonymous thing with people who used to work at Data East. And apparently one of, I don't remember which character now, because I mean, I own Windjammers, but I can't remember the cast off the top of my head. But apparently one of the characters in Windjammers is based off of Scott Norton. So, if you ever wanted to merge your love of pro wrestling and Frisbee, check
How
out.
come we're not talking about the Ice Train theme music instead of Scott Norton?
I don't know.
I wanna know.
I mean, that's
I posted that in the chat, so
okay. You posted a link to his theme music. You're
Uh-huh.
saying, okay, yeah, that's.
It was the ice train, Joe. Not like a normal train.
No, not at all.
One made out of ice.
One made out of ice, yes, indeed. As one does. It's like the Snowpiercer, kind of.
No, that's a train that goes through
It goes
the ice.
through the ice. Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Forever and a forever loop. And there's a dance party. There's a dance party car.
There is a dance party car.
See, it all comes back around. Dancing.
There's a fancy restaurant car. There's a horrifying schoolroom
In the
car.
original cut of that movie, they were dancing to the ice train theme music, but
Couldn't get the rights. Yeah.
WWE, yeah. That's tied up in the library.
This is the problem. It's ruining art now.
Yeah, that's right. These freaking arcane copyright laws are just... It's Walt Disney and the ice train theme. That's really what it's all about.
There we go. So this controller, I like this controller a lot, but it has a thing where like the down, or some of the directions, down especially I'm noticing playing this game is very sensitive, so if I'm holding down and like mashing, like sometimes the down lifts off and I stand up and get shot, and that is not helping this situation. I might switch to my, well, this probably, the battery in this will probably not last for this whole 12 hours, so, although I'm going to be switching systems and stuff at various points, but I might switch to my arcade stick, but I know that that's noisy, and like the mic picks up the clicking and clacking quite a bit more than like the controller I'm playing with now, so we'll see. But it's a good controller for stuff like this, so.
Yeah. Discord, or no, well, that would be through OBS, never mind. I was gonna say, Discord has a pretty good sound filtering thing that will...
Yeah, you can put like a high-pass
it
filter
only
or
picks
whatever.
up, right, well, it only picks up voices, and so then you don't hear the clicking when you're not talking, but obviously you're not streaming your Discord to people that aren't me and Alexis,
Right.
so... It's great for us, I guess.
Right.
Everything I wanted, so the more you want. Not a Contra aficionado, but I do see what you're saying about the firepower.
Yeah, this is...
The firepower up, because that explosion seems really effective. That seems like what I would use.
Yeah, there are very few, let's see, Contra, sorry, the Super C, Operation C, which is the Game Boy one, which I'll play in a bit, and Contra 4, I believe, are the only Contra games that use this version of the fire power-up. Because in Contra 3, it became like a flamethrower, which is also dope. They're all better than the original Contra fire power-up, which
Flamethrower is
sucks.
a little obvious.
Yeah, it's a little obvious to just be like, oh, it's just a flame. But it's actually, in that game, it's also super useful because if you hold the button down and change where you're pointing, you can like 360 the fire, which is very helpful in certain situations. Most other weapons really only shoot in 8 directions. Damn it! But the fire you can do a full 360. God, I feel like I'm getting worse.
Also, shout outs to Frank, Hope, and John, who've all made donations to the fundraiser.
Awesome. What are we at?
195.
195. Cool. Sorry, are Frank, Hope, and John new donors over what we started with Johnny?
Yeah, it's over what we started with
Okay.
in the last hour.
Yeah. So shout outs to all those people for sure.
Yes, and Johnny.
And Johnny Redding, my old coworker. Thanks, John.
Yeah, I didn't say the other people's last names, although it's displayed on the page, so I guess it's...
I mean, you don't have to. I don't care about I don't care about doxing
when we do
Johnny.
Extra Life, I have, like, since I'm the admin for the page, I can see people's names, and it doesn't always show what they want it to show. It just shows me their names, so I have to be careful. But I guess with this, it probably gives you the option to.
Yeah, if you're looking at the if you're looking at the pub, well, you don't have access to the back end of this page. So yeah, if it says there, I mean, you can say it if you want. I don't know. It's up to you. That doesn't matter.
That's fine.
But yeah, I mean, shout outs to those people for sure. Thank you very much for helping out. I feel like a lot of people, you know, watch and don't interact in the chat, you know, and just kind of chill out. I mean, I know it because there's been times when I've done streams and see that there's, you know, 9 people watching and nobody's chatting, so there's a lot of shout-outs to everybody who hangs out and doesn't necessarily chat. Speaking of the chat, anything in the chat, or did our wrestling chatter just completely...
Oakland says the flame is totally the crush weapon.
It kind of is.
Kind of, yeah.
But it doesn't, like, when it hits something, it doesn't have the expansion, right? Like, it does big damage when it hits something, but it doesn't have the spreading...
It has a little splash.
I mean, very little, though. Not in the same way as this weapon.
Right, like, you can use this to bounce around corners and stuff in a way you can't necessarily with the,
right.
the crush bomber thing.
There we go. That's better. Yeah. Speaking of streams, I did.
Simon says this is a chargeable weapon too.
It is. I don't find the charge shot that useful though, but you can charge it. But I really don't ever use the charge shot very much because it gets bigger. So here, I'll just show it off because I'm in a spot where I can do it. That's the regular shot, and then if you charge it, you hold the button down for a little while. It gets bigger, but like the amount of like the delay required to it's a grower, not a shower. The delay required, I don't feel is worth what you get out of it. You know,
you're better off just dumping.
Yeah, and plus it doesn't explode when you charge it, right? It goes through enemies when you charge it, and there's a usefulness to that, I suppose. But I think the splash is more useful. Oh, come on.
Splash seems to be the benefit of the gun, so I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like a delayed spread fire.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. I like this weapon more than the spread generally in this game. Spread is the #1 weapon pretty much everywhere else, but in this game, I'm all about the fire. Okay. Now, anyways, yeah. So I did a live stream of console modding last week. I don't know if anybody caught that, but I fixed my Dreamcast. And I didn't fix it; it wasn't broken, but I did some part swapping and some improvement. Damn it! Improving on my Dreamcast. And it runs way quieter. You know, when you start up a Dreamcast normally, it sounds like a Harrier jet taking off. Mine doesn't sound like that anymore because I put in a new fan. And I put in a new power supply so it doesn't run as hot. And I put in an SD card reader that didn't work, so I have to argue with the seller on AliExpress to send that back, and I bought a replacement from a different seller, so hopefully that will be addressed shortly. But yeah, did a bunch of Dreamcast fixing up, and I'm pretty excited about getting able to actually use that. Unfortunately, there are no Contra games on the Dreamcast, so I will not be able to.
You have all the good games. You got Space Channel 5. You got
Space Channel 5.
Space Channel 5 Part 2, but not in American.
Well, that'll be the beauty of having the SD card reader, though. I can just load up. Because it works around the region coding as well. Although I already have a disc that like a freeloader disc that bounces around the region coding anyways, but that'll be nice. You've got Crazy Taxi with the original soundtrack, with The Offspring and Bad Religion. Because if you buy it now, like if you buy that Dreamcast collection that's on Steam and on whatever modern consoles, it does not have the original Epitaph Records soundtrack.
You can build it yourself though, right? Because it literally just pulls from MP3s, so you just have to put MP3 songs in there.
Yeah. But that's
put that one Offspring song. Let's be honest.
Right. That's the one that everybody remembers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nailed it. I liked The Offspring before that game came out, and I liked Bad Religion I like Bad Religion more than The Offspring, actually. So for me, it's all worth it. I think Sega had some sort of deal with Epitaph Records at that time because the Top Skater soundtrack also features a bunch of Epitaph Records songs from mostly from Pennywise, I think, or at least that's what's lodged in my brain. That game rules, and that's one of those games that you can't play. It probably is available on MAME, but it's not the same to play top scooter unless you're standing on a fake skateboard and like slamming down on the tail of it to do tricks when you go off ramps. It's really not the same experience.
You really have to have a very complicated MAME cabinet.
Yes. You'd have to build some custom hardware for that, which I mean people do. There's someone who I sent Eric a link to this a while ago, but someone has like a 3D printed design and like instructions on how to build a spinner controller, a USB spinner controller, that uses like a volume knob, like a stereo part you can get off of Amazon, like a heavy metal volume knob for stereo equipment that you get off of Amazon, and then like you 3D print the shell, and then there's like whatever goes. The guts are like a pretty standard part that you can just order off of Newegg or whatever, and then you've got like a Arkanoid style spinner controller, and I keep. There you go. Exactly, exactly. But I've been thinking about doing that just because like 3D printing has really been a really big. Cool thing for the sort of vintage modding community. Like a lot of the stuff that I put in my Dreamcast this week was 3D printed parts. It was the fan shroud for the new fan was 3D printed, and and there's actually a part that replaces the I don't know why I'm getting stuck on this boss like so badly this time.
This dude's not that hard.
He's not. I don't know what the deal is. What's the code for this game? It's not up. It's not the Konami code. It's like a. Is it the opposite?
It's like down, down, up, up, super C code. Hang on. It's like down, down, up, up, something. Right, left, down, up, A, B, select, start. That's 10 lives.
Right, left.
Right, left, down, up, A, B, select, start.
Well, I'm not going to hit select, so I'm not playing 2 players, but there we go. All right, let's give this a try. I'm coding it up with this one.
Cheer.
I actually just watched a video last night before I went to bed about save scumming and game design around it, and is it cheating? And there's an interesting design philosophy.
Yeah, but who cares?
Right. One of the people or the person who made the video was like, you cannot cheat in a single player game. And I was like, that's a reasonable philosophy. I mean, you still call it a cheat code or a cheat whatever, but like realistically, like if you're playing a single player game and the outcome doesn't affect anybody else, like you can't cheat because who are you cheating, right?
You're cheating yourself, man.
Like that Mike Ness record, cheating at solitaire. But yeah, so I don't know. I shouldn't need the code on this game, but I'm using it just because I'm tired of getting stuck at the stupid walker thing. So I'm just doing it, whatever.
So many more Contras,
There's so many more Contras to get to. So, Alexis, how's Florida?
Hard to run in because it's hot down here. So
yeah,
it's been a lot of adjustment. Yeah, and it's.
Oh. Sorry, continue.
It's just weird because I'm boring. Because I'm like, okay, I'm moving out of my parents' house. Where am I moving? Then walking distance to my parents' house. Nice. And then it's like, all right, finally move out of town. Move out of my parents' town. Where am I moving? Like an hour and a half away. To the city I've gone to since I was a little kid. So this is the first time I've ever really lived somewhere that I didn't know.
It's weird, right?
It's really weird.
It's weird, yeah. And this is my second time, but doing it again, it's weird because I moved the first time and then I had like a whole new group of friends and stuff. And I mean, people I worked with, but also it was nice because Anthony and Kurt lived. Anthony moved to DC like I think a week or two before my wife did, and she crashed with them for a little while. She looked for an apartment, and then I moved there a couple months later when I got a job. And then, you know, I spent 5 years but building a whole new group of friends and everything, and then I moved. Then I did it again, right? So now I'm in Nashville, and it's like, okay, but I don't have a job yet, and I didn't already know anybody who lived here, so it's been a different experience so far. But
I'm with you. You know, we ended up having to move like right in like, you know, I'm a teacher and there is a academic hiring season.
yeah,
Basically, the way we had to move, I missed it, so I don't know if I'm how soon I'm gonna get employed. We'll see.
yeah.
I'll do my best.
When is that? When is the academic hire? Because it's summer now, so I feel like it would be like now, but that's not the case
This
apparently.
is when they're looking at all the applications. Like you have to get them in like it's like why can I not think of months? Like you have to start applying in like April, and then they just sit on them until the summer, and then they start doing all the hiring stuff. And then if you're lucky, you'll have a job by August.
That sounds cumbersome to say the least.
Oh yeah, no, academia is fun, but yeah, I don't know. I'll figure it out. You know, we'll make it happen. You know, I'm half teacher, half librarian at this point, considering what I've been doing for the past couple of years. Maybe a librarian.
There you go.
Library sounds like a nice, relaxing place to work.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. I've been enjoying the library life, although I was like the late night
Hashtag library life.
Hashtag library life. Although I was like always the late night person in the college library, so I was like,
man.
oh yeah, there's like 2 students who want us to be open till 3 a.m. So have fun sitting there. I'm like, cool, thanks.
That sounds awesome.
That actually, I gotta say, that actually kind of sounds great in some
That's
ways.
when all the cool weirdos come out too, probably.
Yeah, times. It's fun. You know, but you know, it's also one of those things where it's like, yeah, when you're there to 3 a.m., there's a lot of stuff to do, and then eventually there's nothing to do. So I got a lot of reading done, you know, like you do.
Yep. Yep, as one does.
Reading all the comics, what you can do.
What comics are you reading?
I don't know, all my embarrassing I like.
It's okay. All comics are embarrassing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't worry about
Oh,
it. It's
man.
fine.
And I like the really good ones that are coming out. Is I'm dragon obsessed, so there's a series going on right now called Dragon Goes House Hunting, where it's just dragon trying to buy a new house. And he's
Is
like,
it as hard for dragons as it is for people?
Yeah.
yeah, because it's like, you know, you don't want to, you want to have, you know, the right monsters and traps, but you don't want to be like too conspicuous, because then, so you know, heroes are going to come and try to take you out all the time, and that's just exhausting.
You need to have like an appropriately
Oh, so
sized
these aren't-
treasure
these
hoard
aren't,
to
like-
sleep on.
Yeah, these aren't like anthropomorphic dragons. These are like real ass dragons.
Yeah,
This is more like lair hunting.
Yes, but
Okay.
you know, I mean, yeah, he's very good. He's basically, he doesn't want to fight. He hates confrontation. So he's like, I just want a place that feels safe. And it's like, all right, well, here's a nice haunted house. You'll be protected by this army of ghosts. He's like, that's really creepy. I don't know about that.
So this is a comedy book then,
Yeah,
clearly.
it's very good. It's like him and his like this evil necromancer elf who is also a realtor. Like it's like he like gives him a business card. It's like it says like evil dark lord, realtor.
And it's called Dragon Goes House Hunting. That's what it's called.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out. That sounds pretty great. I actually, my D&D group had to deal with a house hunting dragon last week. It was kind of annoying because this dragon took up roost in
You got
this.
a D&D group?
I do.
Nerd alert!
Yeah, well,
No.
Have we met? No, we've met, right? But yeah, I have a D&D group. It's actually the same D&D group that I like, for the most part, that I first played D&D with. It's there's some of my oldest friends from like elementary school, and I had been playing at work. We had a work D&D group that then became sort of splintered because some of us went to work other places, but we were still kind of keeping it together. And then basically all of us ended up like leaving the area. Like one of the people who was in it, she ended up moving to New York, and one of the guys is moving to like Central Virginia, and I moved out here, and so it was just like, well, guess we're done with that group. And so, but I'd gotten back into playing, and I was like, I really enjoyed this, and like I said, I don't know anybody in Nashville, so I sent a group Facebook message to like Rich, my old roommate, and my friends Wes and Scott, who we've been friends for a gazillion years, and I was like, hey, you guys want to start playing D&D again? Like, we'd use Roll20, and we could, get a game going. And everybody was like, yeah, let's do it. So we've been playing for a couple months now. But we went into this old abandoned town, and this dragon had taken roost in this old tower. And part of what we were asked to do is, like, get rid of the dragon. So, being the naive monk that I am, I was like, let's talk to him and, like, see if we can just ask him to leave.
That always works out well.
Didn't work out. But, well, by the time he attacked us, I had already gotten suspicious, right? Like, I was like, I don't like the feel of this. And then he was like, no, come here, and I'll, like, show you on this map where you can find this thing, and then I'll leave. And we're like, okay. And everybody got up close, and then he used his breath weapon and almost killed several of the people we were with, which I wasn't sad about, but almost killed all of us. And then I was like, well, now, because I'm a monk, I'm going to have to punch you to death. And then I punched him a bunch of times, and he flew away. So I suspect we'll be seeing him again at some point in the future.
Just should have punched harder.
I punch pretty hard. I can disrupt the flow of a person's ki energy in their body and leave them lying,
Yeah, that's what they all say.
That's.
Are you playing 5th?
We're playing 5th, yeah. This particular group, we started on 2nd because we're olds, right? So we started on 2nd way back in the day, and then we moved to 3rd eventually, and then we all missed 4th. Like, none of us played 4th at all, but I heard 4th was, like, not that great because it got really, really combat-centric, which is what I didn't like about 2nd. And, like, how you have to do calculus to do combat in 2nd edition D&D, so...
I'm like one of the world's few 4th edition defenders.
Oh, you are? Okay, why do you like 4th?
4th edition had a goal. Its goal was, we want people who play WoW to play Dungeons & Dragons.
I hate it already.
So combat was set up basically where you, instead of having, like, you basically had these cards. They weren't necessarily physical cards, but they were essentially skill buttons in WoW with a cooldown. So you had powers that would cool down every fight, you had powers that would cool down every 3 fights, you had powers that would cool down every day. And so it was very easy to sort of understand how to combat, because if you had played a lot of video games. And then all the rest of it was just Dungeons & Dragons. Like, I played a lot of 4th edition. But I also understand why people who, as someone who's now played other things, I understand why people would be like, well, this is really restrictive and silly, and creates a lot of, like, similarities between the classes. And I'm like, yeah, it does that. It does. But
yeah, the thing I like about 5th over 3rd and 2nd, at least, is, like, the magic users, which I never play magic user anyway, but, like, my friends do, right? And so they feel a lot more useful in combat than they used to, like, because it would be like all your cantrips were useless in combat, and then you would use your spell slots. Sure, yeah, you get a cool light. That's definitely true. And that's useful when you're exploring, but not useful when you're fighting, right? So, and then, like, you would use your 2 spell slots for the day or whatever, and then, like, you would have to hit things with a stick. which nobody really wants to do, right? Like nobody wants to.
If you want to be a cool wizard, you don't want to hit things.
Right, you don't want to hit things with a stick. Like a monk can hit things with a stick, but a wizard, you don't want to hit things with a stick. That's not.
If you're a monk, you don't want to hit things with a stick either. Let's be honest.
That's true.
And again, that's something that 4th edition did, right? Like if you were your basic attack, if you were a wizard, was magic missile. Like you could just fire it as many times as you wanted, and it was less powerful than magic missile used to be. But you could just be like, okay, I'm a wizard. I'm just going to sit back here and pew 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 at people.
So I think they fixed that in 5th in a way that I really like, which is like, well, so magic missile is back to being a spell slot, but it's also like kind of ridiculously like you can't miss with it. There's no attack roll with magic missile now, but it gives you a bunch of cantrips that are now actually useful in combat. Like the magic users that are in our party, like they have acid splash and firebolt and like stuff like that. Shocking grasp, and like those are all cantrips. They can just use them over and over and over again, and not have to ever worry about hitting things with a stick. So that I appreciate, and I appreciate that like the classes are a little bit more variable, because like every class now I think it's on 3rd level you like choose a sort of like almost like a subclass. Like for monk you choose a monastic tradition. So I'm a Way of the Open Hand monk, which means I get a bunch of abilities that if you're like a Way of the Shadow monk, you don't get. But the Way of the Shadow monk can like sneak around and be concealed much more easily than I can. But I punch things harder, you know, and that kind of stuff. And like when I was playing as a rogue,
As you want to do.
right? I mean, I chose monk because I play rogue a lot. Like that's my standard class when I'm playing D&D is I just go with rogue. And my first 5th edition game, the group I was playing with at work, I played rogue because it was what I hadn't played in probably 10 years at least, and just wanted to like be something familiar, so I would have some idea of like what my role in the group would be and all that junk. And so as a rogue, you can do like assassin or thief or arcane trickster, which gives you like a few spells that you can use and stuff. And so like those aspects of 5th I think are interesting, because you could theoretically have a whole party of one class, but then they're totally different by 3rd level because they all choose different subclasses or different, you know, monastic orders or roguish archetypes or whatever the thing is for your class at that point. So I don't know. I like 5th edition a lot. I've been having a lot of fun with it. But again, I missed 4th completely, and if I had played it, I might have some affinity for it. But the way you describe it sounds like I don't really. That's not what I want from D&D, I guess.
Yeah, I 100% like. I'm cool with people who aren't into 4th, but I liked it. Like I certainly think that the stuff that has taken the lessons of 4th and applied it in a better situation is like better. Like I love 13th Age, which is basically most of the designers of 4th edition like went to a different company and then made a better version of it, and it's like it has a lot of the combat stuff I liked, but it's less I hit the powers in order like in WoW, and it has this thing called the escalation die, which basically the longer combat goes, the easier it is for everyone to hit everyone. So basically like it becomes sudden death really quickly, where everybody's getting like plus if the combat's gone 6 rounds, everyone's getting +6 to their rolls. So like things get ridiculous. So it keeps combat from lasting like 300 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely don't like combat. That's the big problem with 2nd edition, right? Is combat always lasted 300 hours. And again, part of it was that you had to do like stupid math stuff to like figure out what was going on, because Thaco was the worst system ever, and I don't know who came up with it or why they thought it was a good idea, but like
Did somebody say taco? Now you're speaking my language. That was in a video game once. I remember that one.
It was, it's true.
It was, because a lot of those because 2nd edition lasted for a really long time. I think 2nd edition was the longest standing edition of D&D. And so the rule sets of all the gold box games, and I think even some of like Baldur's Gate might have still been on second
Baldur's
edition
Gate 1 and
rules.
2, the
I think Neverwinter Nights was third. Might have been updated to third edition.
3.5. Winter Nights, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Eric, you never played D&D, did you?
Nope. The only RPG the only like live action role playing thing I ever did was that time we did that wrestling.
That's,
Alexis.
yeah.
Actually.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, that was pretty okay.
Wrestling RPG is fun.
Have you played more of it,
But, yeah,
Alexis?
I just never had.
I got a couple more times. It's got the. I think since we played, they put out an expansion called International Incident.
Oh.
A lot of foreign objects in that one.
Yes, it has a lot more playbooks and stuff in it. So it continued to be good. I don't know. I had my Pathfinder game that I played forever, and then I haven't played a whole lot since then. I ran Monster of the Week for a while, which was always fun.
Monster of the Week, is that like an X-Files tabletop game?
Well, more like a I guess kind of X-Files, depending on there is a class just straight up. I'm the character from X-Files, so I guess that makes sense.
Okay.
But it's basically like there's a monster. Most of the role playing is you have to basically there's no way you can beat the monster to start with, so you have to do research and figure out what its weaknesses are, and then it ends with like a confrontation, and then that's the monster of the week, and then next week, hey, there's probably another monster. Oh,
That sounds like X-Files.
yeah.
Or at least it sounds like the good episodes of X-Files. The conspiracy.
Did you ever have a monster that was had stretchy arms and grabbed someone's butt through a toilet?
No, but that could be possible, but that wasn't quite what I was running. So
Did you ever have a monster that nested in the Chrysler Building in New York and was plucking sunbathers off of rooftops, and only Michael Moriarty knew where it was nesting?
All that seems possible with Monster of the Week, for sure. Yeah, Monster of the Week is really, really light, but it's fun. And I guess I'm like a professional DM now, because in a few weeks at Gen Con, I'm running games for Magpie Games, so I guess I'm
that sounds dope. But answer me a question then. This is something I've wanted to know for a really long time, because every time we've gone to PAX or every time we've whatever, how do you play D&D at a convention with a group that you're only going to play one? Like, how does that? Do you give them pre-made characters, or do you tell them to roll at a certain level, or like what? How do you do D&D at a convention as like a one-off?
First off, I don't play much of D&D at these conventions because I go to play a bunch of indie games.
Well, sure.
And a lot of indie games are more designed around like the 2 to 3 session campaign, because they understand that if you're going to play a million hours, you're going to play D&D. So they're much more set up to like I like a system called Powered by the Apocalypse, which is what Monster of the Week and World Wrestling RPG runs under. And in that, it's really easy to spend the first 15 minutes of this 4-hour play session is making your character, because it's not that hard to make a character. And go from there. But in general, you'll have 2 different types of sessions. You'll have one that's open to everyone, open to newbies kind of session, and those will generally have pre-made characters. And then you'll have the people that are super serious, and they'll literally have you need to make a 3rd level character. You have this much money to do a thing. Or like if you're playing Pathfinder, it'll be you need a character that adheres to these Pathfinder Society rules and stuff, because they have a whole weird ass thing there.
I had forgotten how much I hated this stage, by the way. But sorry, continue.
Yeah, this looks good. This looks bad. got the mouths. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't like floor mouths.
Well, they pop up like when there's no way to get away from them, right? Like it's like, oh, here it is. You're murdered.
Sneaking in there.
And you can't like you can't jump or duck in these stages. You can't do anything to avoid anything. And so, yep, once again, I'm going to be fighting the boss without a weapon. So this will be fun.
A true test of your skills.
Yeah.
I guess. But yeah, so like we're normally playing stuff that'll have like pre-made characters, or it'll be a campaign that's so short that it won't be whatever, or or it'll pre-made character where it's like, here's a bunch of stats and answer some questions about your character, character wise, but I've rolled up a level 2 thief for you and here's your skills. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. So.
Okay, that makes sense. Eric and I played a game over what the fuck? Over WrestleMania weekend that I think you might be into. Which is, it's called Book It, and it's a wrestling promoter simulation card game thing. And I think Eric and I had fun with it, but I think we discussed like it might be more fun if you had more than 2 people. Like the dynamic would change a bit. We're gonna give Super C one more shot here, and then I'm gonna move on to something else. Because like I don't know, Eric. What did you like? I had a lot of fun with it, but there are certain strategies that when you're just playing with 2 people, it's sort of like, if I book this same venue every turn, like then I kind of have an advantage in a way that it's sort of hard to. The only way to combat it is to book this other venue every single time, but if you have 4 people playing, then that wouldn't be possible for the same person to theoretically book the same venue every time. Because each venue gives you like a buff to your... or not a buff necessarily, but like each venue has an effect on certain traits, and like the fact that there would be 4 people pulling from the pool of available wrestlers would also make a bit of a difference. So I don't know, I thought it was fun with 2 people, but I think it would be more interesting with more, and I'm gonna try to get a game going with more when I'm going back to Wisconsin in a little while here, for about a week, and I'm hoping that I can grab some friends while I'm there and get like a full 4-person game of that going, to sort of see how that works out. But yeah, I think given that you are still wrestling aware and you're into board games and card games, I think you'd have a lot of fun with it.
Good, yeah.
It's pretty simple. It's like a nice like hour thing to do. It's not like a super long.
Yeah.
That's good. Long board games scare me these days. Probably not for any real reason, but it's always just like, okay, I could get this board game down, and it's just, I feel exhausted. I've just taken it off the shelf, and now I'm already tired.
Yeah,
well, those tend to weigh like 150 pounds.
True. We had some like pretty lengthy game sessions when Kurt and Anthony and I all lived in DC, and like especially when Eric would come into town and stuff. And I think we generally shied away from playing super long ones too, just because like, I don't know. I guess part of it was like, if we play one super long game, then like that's it. That's the thing we're playing today. Like if we decide, okay, we're gonna play the Battlestar Galactica board game, like that would be our whole day. Like we wouldn't have time to play anything else, and so I think we just maybe even subconsciously tended to favor variety over like one super long thing.
Yeah,
although,
I definitely tend to go towards that, but it's also a thing where like I get into a super long game and then I'm like, oh, this is really fun. So there's this game and it has the worst. It's the worst game in every way except for actually playing it. So
you're really selling me here.
Oh no, it looks like a fake board game someone made for $5, like on a TV set or something. It's really bad. It's called Sidereal Confluence: Trading and Negotiation in the Elysian Quadrant.
Well, the title's awful.
Yeah, and like all of the pieces look terrible, and the art is bad. And it's really bad, but the game is fantastic. Like you look at this game and you're like, who made this? Why did they make this? Why? But like you play it and it's like this completely ridiculous trading game where you're trying to make cubes turn into more cubes. You know, you're just like, man, I wish I had some more cubes. Well, I'll trade
Cubes
you
are
my blue cube for 2 yellow cubes. I would love to do that. Now I'll put them in my cube factory, and then it'll turn those yellow cubes into a gray cube and an orange cylinder. Nice. And all these things have names, but they don't matter because you're just
Right.
gonna start yelling like, "Give me your white cube!" No. But like, yeah, like every time my husband loves this game, and every time he'd be like, "Let's play this," and I'd be like, "Oh, it's such a long game. Oh, I don't know." And then I'd sit down and play it, and it's a blast. So I'm just like, maybe I'm just too easily exhausted by long games. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like mental block. I don't know.
Yeah, and we started setting up the Dark Souls board game one time.
Yeah.
And I think we got like one room into it, and we were just like, "This is like doing homework."
We spent like an hour and a half setting it up, and then Anthony came back with the pizza, and it's like, all right, well, that's it for this forever, I guess.
There's pizza now.
Yeah, there's some cool pieces in there, but I should have spent a bunch of time playing it by myself first. That's more like a combat thing, so it's not really.
It's very much in that Kingdom Death mold, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But with less skirts made out of penises, you know.
Well, then, I mean, who
Like a
wants to
much
play
more
it if it
interesting
has?
version of that game.
Yeah.
Now, well, to be fair, the skirt made out of penises was a Kickstarter exclusive. If you didn't kickstart it, you don't get the skirt to put on the character. It's a totally separate skirt of penises.
Bullshit.
I know, right? Come on. I don't know.
So now I have to ask, lore-wise, are those penises that have been removed, or are those like naturally occurring penises?
I believe it's like sewn together penises that have been taken from people, because it's all like horrible, like disgusting monsters kind of
I see.
enemies. So
Seems
I
like a
think,
lot of work.
That does seem like a lot of work.
yeah, but you know, you can't beat that intimidation factor, really. I mean,
That's a valid point.
I'm going to do this grotesque thing, and also I'm willing to put in the work to do it right. You know?
yeah, exactly.
Oh man. Let's see. So there's some chat stuff.
Okay.
Grella Paluda says, "Bad talking second edition. Boo earns." Yep, second edition was the only thing available in that wonderful wasteland that was the 90s. So. And Hollywood Jason says, "What a maneuver!" Which, if I was streaming, I could push this button and play the theme song, but I'm not. So.
I don't have the what a
Also
maneuver
says,
theme
if
song.
you guys want to
button.
talk about old TNA wrestling, remember tag team champion Pac-Man Jones.
Oh yes.
Which I don't. I
do.
I watched TNA. I ordered like the very first pay-per-view that they did, and then didn't really pay much attention to it in the years following. I would have been like 04 or something. Not the first internet pay-per-view that they did, but like the first real pay-per-view.
Right, because they were pay-per-view only at the beginning. Yeah, I can't remember who he was tag team champions with, but he just, because the NFL's rules, like he basically just stood on the apron like while his tag team partner actually wrestled. I think it was Homicide or someone, maybe. I don't remember.
Follow up and Black Rain. Nope, I'm totally lost. Sorry.
Oh man, Black Rain was Gold Dust's TNA incarnation. It was
Oh,
It was
nice.
bad.
Apparently, it's also an Avenged Sevenfold album. So, they came out in
sounds-
2018. So I'm going to assume that it was named after the.
Named after Gold Dust.
Yeah.
I heard that match was good too, by the way, at Double or Nothing.
AEW. Yeah, it was pretty good. It was very. He's a little past his prime.
Yeah, he's like
it was
50
a very
something.
WWE style match. Well, there was a lot of blood.
I say I heard it was a lot
WWE
of.
style
That is not
anymore, but,
WWE style. Yeah.
It was good. I had fun with it. It isn't like a incredible or anything, but I really.
It's not a must see. It's not
Yeah,
must see
no,
TV.
I would say it was one of the better matches on that card for sure. It was very emotional. It just wasn't. It was a little sloppy in some places and stuff, but it didn't have to be perfect. So
you'd say
what it used to be. It was good.
Dustin
It was very good.
Dustin is not in the shape that Jericho is in at roughly the same age. You would say.
I mean, even Jericho's little. He's 50 and he wrestles like a guy that's 50.
Does he wrestle like
He looks
every
great.
guy that's 50 though, or does he wrestle like a 50-year-old Chris Jericho? Because I mean,
He wrestles like a
that's-
50-year-old Chris Jericho, which is still better than a lot of wrestlers, but it's not like 25-year-old Chris Jericho.
Well, no.
No?
Or even 35-year-old Chris. 35-year-old Chris Jericho is still pretty fucking good.
Was probably that's probably like the best Chris Jericho, right?
Yeah, I think
15
honestly
years ago, 2000. No, the best would have
the
been
best-
5 years before that. Probably 30-year-old Chris Jericho.
Oh, see, I was actually going to say I think the best Chris Jericho is
like late 20s, early 30s. WCW.
no, I think the best Chris Jericho is Chris Jericho in a suit telling you why you're all fucking horrible and having great matches with Shawn Michaels. I think that's the best Chris Jericho.
Best Chris Jericho was WCW Chris Jericho.
Conspiracy
The list-
victim.
Yeah, the fucking Dean Malenko thing, going to the fucking Supreme Court to get all that stuff was Rolfus.
Fucking Ralphus.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the pinnacle of his in-ring work, but that was definitely my favorite. Just total buffoon Chris Jericho. Really good.
Yeah, see, I like cold calculating evil heel
Yeah.
Chris Jericho.
Hollywood
the
Jason
most.
says he was tag team champion with Ron Killings.
That's it, our truth.
Remember the reverse battle royale?
Yes, the reverse battle royale was the
You'd throw people
dumbest
into the
shit.
ring from outside?
Pretty
Is that what that is?
much. I mean, kinda, yeah. That sounds really dumb because it was.
That's amazing. That's an amazing premise.
That seems really hard.
Well, also they had that. What was it? King
Hard
of
enough to throw
the.
somebody over like 4 foot of wrestling ropes, let alone to over the ring apron and over the ropes and into the ring.
There was a thing where I think it was called King of the Mountain or King of the Hill, where it was like you had to put it was like a reverse ladder match. Like put a thing on the. Like hang a thing at the top of the ladder. That was the goal. That was real bad.
This is 2006, apparently.
That at least seems vaguely doable.
Yeah.
Where I don't know about this reverse battle royale even being vaguely doable.
I don't know. I'm glad that like Kazarian and Christopher Daniels are gonna get some time in like a nationwide promotion that isn't a fucking joke. Like I'm into that.
Apparently, you had to fight to get into the ring and then fight to throw everybody else back out of the ring afterwards.
Yeah, okay.
That doesn't make this even worse. It's also less fun. Alright.
TNA was bad, man. TNA was real bad.
Vince Russo, yeah.
Vince Russo was, yeah.
King of the Mountain box had a penalty box.
That's right. Oh god, I forgot about the penalty box. Oh man. Because if you wanted more hockey in your professional wrestling, you know, we added a penalty box to pro wrestling for who even knows what reason. Ugh.
I don't know, it's hard to get into a wrestling ring sometimes.
I mean, it can be.
I've seen, notably, Vince McMahon, grievously injure himself.
Kevin Nash.
Yeah. Didn't Triple H, like, blow out his something one time?
Not getting in the ring, no, but... Come on.
The thing is that you're not dying to the hard parts of this game most of the time. Are you already like totally blown out on Contra?
No, but I'm getting there on Super C. I'll tell you that.
Most of this game really isn't too bad, except for the floor mouths and that one demon level.
Yeah, this game is actually, like, generally speaking, I actually think this game is easier than original NES Contra, but I haven't sunk nearly as much time. Yeah, the floor mouths are bullshit. I just haven't sunk nearly as much time into this game as I have original Contra. Although I didn't think I would be struggling this hard to just get to the end, because that's not normal. Although I guess the last couple times I've beaten this game, it's been 2-player, where you like immediately, like it's a lot harder to get to the continue point when you're playing with two, when you kind of have two people you can steal lives from each other, and it's a lot less of a concern to hit the continue bar and then be like, oh no, I get sent all the way back to the beginning of the stage.
Hollywood Jason says TNA Lockdown was a pay-per-view where every match was a cage match, and sometimes they would electrify in quotation marks the cage.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, who would be dumb enough to make a whole pay-per-view of cage matches? Seems like a bad business decision that would lock you into
see what you did there.
Unnecessary would lock you into unnecessary feuds that don't necessarily require say a cage match, or maybe a match that took place in some sort of a cell.
Yeah.
Would also then make it so that those matches had less impact when there was a storyline that was worth having one of those matches.
Yeah, it's almost like gimmick pay-per-views that aren't stuff like the Royal Rumble, which involves like everybody, are really like a shit idea.
But nobody would make that dumb of a mistake.
No, certainly
wouldn't continue to do it for a decade.
Yeah, nobody would decide that the main event of one particular show has to be like a big gimmick match for some reason, even if there is no actual reason. No one would do that. Actually,
playing Contra, Joe, you can come play Dota Underworld with me. Underworld, Underlord.
I think I'm good. Is that? What about chess?
That's Valve's official Dota chess ripoff game. Which it's all right. I kind of miss the janky weirdness of auto chess proper, though.
Yeah. Is it when you say you miss it? Does that mean they took it down, or?
No, you could still probably play the arcade, the mod in Dota 2 if you wanted. I don't know, but that developer put out
played on the phone, yeah.
Yeah, like they have a mobile version, right? That's not Dota related.
It's hilarious because you're like, because the names are so good. You're like, oh man, I got gyrocopter. Wait, no, I got helicopter.
Is it really called helicopter?
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Like all the names are really bad. It's great.
Well, the best thing is that so they're like, those aren't just bootlegs. They're like bootlegs of bootlegs, because the Dota characters are all bootleg Blizzard characters.
It's a bootleg of a bootleg of a bootleg.
But yeah, I played some Underlords or whatever last night. It was pretty solid.
Yeah, it seems all right. I don't know. Dota was too much for me, but I like auto chess was a thing I could play for 45 minutes and kind of chill out and not have to think about it too hard. So.
I liked Dota. Dota just doesn't care about your time. I guess they added fast forward mode now or something. Like,
yeah.
I haven't tried to get back into it. I played too
mechanically complex for me to.
Played the Blizzard version for a long time.
I played some of that.
Because it didn't give a shit. It's just like, oh yeah, your whole team has one level, whatever, I don't care. And I'm like, okay, cool.
I think we all tried that a little bit when they had the Diva.
Oh yeah, that's right. I was gonna say I don't remember what you guys were talking about, but now I do. Yeah, there were skins in Overwatch. Yeah, yes, that's right.
You get the Cop Diva skin, which of course Diva's a cop, obviously.
Everyone's a cop now.
How dare you?
Everyone in Overwatch is, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Even the bad guys, they're just. But yeah, I want Blizzard to put out a version of this, because I still can't. I never played World of Warcraft, but I played a ton of Hearthstone, and just there's like something about looking at all these Blizzard characters and not having them named the right Blizzard names that just fucks me up.
That's fair.
That's Malfurion, goddammit. He was in Warcraft, you motherfuckers. Just get it right.
Yeah, I hope Hearthstone's doing okay. I don't know. I used to play that every day, and then I stopped, and now it's just like, they're like, oh, we released another thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I don't know, I haven't played Constructed Hearthstone in many years. I still play Arena sometimes.
I say you still play, yeah, you still play Arena.
I stopped in the sort of saddest way, but it was like, you know, they started doing the rotations, which I'm like, yeah, this makes sense, of course, yeah. And then they rotated because I'm predictable, they rotated my dragon deck out, like all
I was just gonna ask if it was because they rotated all the dragons out.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay. Well, then I'm like, all right, well, I need to build a new deck. You know, there's some cool new cards out. I need to build a new deck. I'll do that later. And then it turned out that I got busy and later never came, and I stopped playing.
Yeah, no, there's no dragons in the game right now, unless you play Wild. I mean, there's like the old, like Deathwing and Ysera and stuff is still around, but
Yeah, they had like that Paladin Dragon deck was my favorite deck. They had like a special like hero that you had to like level a character to 30 in WoW. So like I went back into WoW for the first time in like years and years and just leveled a character to 30 to get that thing.
That's the thing that I never. But the guy who DMs our D&D group, his wife still plays WoW, and so like frequently when we're in like Roll20 and we're chatting, you just hear like click 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 just like incessantly because she's playing WoW at the computer next to the computer he's using to DM. But that was. I don't know. WoW never. MMOs in general. Never, like I played a little bit of some MUDs like way back in the day, but MMOs never grabbed me in any meaningful way.
I liked my year of WoW quite a bit. Then my brother kept coming back and I never did, so I'll just leave it to him. He's an MMO guy. Although I guess now, you know, I don't know, I've put a lot of time into ESO for no reason, so I'll probably get back to that. They put some more dragons in that.
what's ESO?
Elder Scrolls Online.
Oh, Elder Scrolls, yeah. Yeah, didn't they just put out a new thing for that? Or
They talked about it
Yeah.
enough at E3, so.
Elsewhere, yeah.
yeah.
You know, it's one of those things like when you watch those, you're like, why are you talking about this? It's like, oh, I'm the one person who wants to know about the changes to the thing. I'm the guy. It's like I'm sure someone else is the guy who wants to hear about this new Rainbow Six Siege character that you put out. I get it.
Is anybody the
I
guy
don't
who
know.
wants to hear about the new Rainbow Six Siege
The
character?
Elder Scrolls thing does pretty good, right, for them, I think.
They saved it. Like the original version sucked, and then they're like, oh, when you wanted Elder Scrolls Online, you wanted like a game that played like Elder Scrolls,
But online.
but online.
That's wild.
And so like basically they went back, and I never played it until after they made these changes. But like basically they went back, and it used to be like very traditional WoW, and then they're like, okay, now like every area scales to you, so you can just do whatever the heck you want, and this and that, and they like really made it feel like Elder Scrolls.
Okay,
And-
let's say that I love Morrowind and I like Skyrim a lot. Would that be worth downloading, playing that for a while?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
The main difference is that you have like, instead of having like spells, you do have a power bar, but it's very small. It's like, you know, it's made to play on a controller, so like you have like 3 skills at any time, 3 or 4 skills. It's really straightforward. And you just kind of, and it's all completely soloable. Like I've played lots of hours of that, and I have done some like raid stuff with a friend where we're just like, I want to see what the story is in these raids. Let's try these raids, and you know they're 4-person raids, and it's just us two, and it's like, all right, I'm a tank, and they're a healer.
What's a raid mechanic like in that style of game? Is it pretty much same as like managing mobs and?
Well, those are the ones that I can't beat, so I don't know how to do those. Because again, like I only play these 4-man raids with 2 people,
Right.
and I'm a tank, and my friend's a healer, and so we have no damage. So like, as long as it's like, as long as there's not a million ads, then we can just sit there, and eventually the guy will die out of boredom.
Right, I was gonna say, you just wait for him to die of old age.
That's kind of what all the fights are when we do that. Which is very silly, but it's just like, you know, it's just an excuse for us to talk. And we're like, oh, we want to see these quests. Because, I don't know, I went from not caring it, like, you know, like, I played a decent amount of Oblivion. I played a little bit of Skyrim. Like, I'm not a big Elder Scrolls person until I started playing ESO, and now I'm like, to ask me anything about lore, I know all of it. I'm an expert. But yeah, like, basically, it's one of those things, like, I would actually suggest if you want to play it, I would play it on a console.
Oh, really?
I play on PC because that's where I started, and you can play on PC, but the thing about it is that on PC they didn't want to invalidate people's hard work, so they kept this thing where, like, you pick a faction at the beginning, and then, like, after you beat the game, you can sort of, your character can kind of restart as the other faction. Eventually you can go anywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, on the console versions, they just realized, oh, everybody hates that, and so like you don't have to like beat the main story to do that. You can just at any time just decide, oh, now I'm going to go here.
Right.
Which my brother played on like PS4, and he was telling me this, and I'm like, what? I'm so angry now. So like, especially if you just want to play casually single player, I would actually recommend getting it on a console.
Well, I got this PlayStation 4 sitting around that I never used, so
Yeah.
maybe that would be the right thing to do.
If you got one of them Xboxes, I guess it's free with Game Pass. I don't know.
No,
you have 3 years of Game Pass.
I'm such a fucking sucker, right? So I totally did the thing with the Game Pass where it's like I have 3 years of PC Game Pass and Xbox Live Gold, I guess, because it's part of the
It's
deal.
Game Pass Premium or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Exciting.
Right. So I got Game Pass for $5 a month for the next 3 years that I paid for up front, and I don't know.
Maybe you
I have
should
some
buy an
video
Xbox
games that
One.
I haven't played.
Yeah, don't you have a gazillion games?
I do.
From Humble Bundles monthly. The other thing you keep saying you're going to cancel and never do.
I did cancel that finally.
Okay.
Not too long ago.
So now you canceled both of the things that you kept saying you were going to cancel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good progress.
Yeah, well, and then I signed up for VRV so I could watch JoJo and some other stuff that Alex and Coffee talked me into watching. But I think I haven't touched that in like a month, so I think I'm going to cancel that too. But I have Game Pass now, so...
Oh, hey, there you go. But yeah, like basically after they realized their mistake, they basically just been putting out these DLCs that just like these little story things, and sort of like, oh, this is just like a mini game, and you can buy it or not, and you just kind of go, like, you know, it's like, okay, I'm gonna buy the Clockwork City, and then like, oh, okay, now I have this new map, and I can go and do Elder Scrolls shit in it, and it's got a little story, and it's all kind of self-contained. Although if you've played the other things, like they have a lot of reoccurring characters that show up over and over again. That are
From the older games?
from ESO, like there's
right.
there's just like sort of reoccurring people that are involved in a lot of quests that are like cool little characters. Like there's these 2 like siblings that are like one of like there's like, you know, like the lady's like Indiana Jones, and like the guy's like a tinkerer who wants to tinker with dwarven artifacts. And they both, and like the guy sucks, and the girl's always saving his ass. And so like you see him a lot in a lot of dungeons and stuff, and then you're like, oh, here you are, you're part of this big long quest. Oh, cool. Like I did there's a whole like thing in like the Orcish city, and there's like this lady who talks about these like detective novels that she loves, and then you can find them and read them, and they're like incredibly gay detective novels. It's just like the worst. Like, it's just like you start reading them, and it's just like, oh, the detective was like, she was just like having sex with this maid, and then she's like gets caught, and then she says something like, well, this proves who the murderer is, obviously. And then goes on to explain it. I'm just like, oh, I know a lot about you, Eagly, now that I've read these stories that you said I had to read.
That's very. I don't know if you. There's a series of books on the like mainline games called The Argonian Handmaid, which is like that, but for romance novels. With the Argonians are the lizard people.
Yeah, good old Liv Sertale.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. There's some great books in those.
There are. The ESO had decided, we need to be a little equal opportunity, so they have Croontail, the sultry Algonian bard, who does some similar things to Liv Sertale, so that's always good. Yeah, no, ESO. I like it because it's fully. It doesn't, it just lets me buy it piecemeal. I'm just like, oh, why this quest is on sale now? Like it's a Steam sale. Oh, this is on sale for $10. I'll just buy that, and there's no annual fee or there's no like monthly fee, so I'll just like buy it. And whenever I get to it, I'll get to it, and I'll have a good time. It's like, oh. They'll be like, oh, we put out new raid DLC, and I'll be like, no, thank you.
Makes sense.
And I built a house. Built a house. I built a chair, and I put the chair in the house. I killed a crocodile, and then I mounted the crocodile's head in the house. It's like, oh.
Nice. What's the cheese wheel situation like?
Yeah, how many cheese wheels can I throw down a hillside at the same time?
You have, I could put cheese wheels in my house, but there are limits. Like, there's like, you can have only this many points worth of objects in the house or whatever. So, if I just wanted to have a cheese wheel house.
You made a lot of good points for playing it, but limited cheese wheels sounds like a real negative.
Yeah.
It's a deal breaker. Limited cheese wheels.
To be fair, like, you can have multiple houses. So I have like this apartment, and like I keep finding these like rare like paintings. And like I don't have any.
You're an art hoarder.
Yeah, so I literally just have this apartment that has a pig pet in it. Like the pig is. You gave me that pig. I remember this. You gave me this.
Oh
pig.
yeah, right. That was a
so
Humble
pig,
Bundle thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the pig is just sitting in this apartment, and then I literally just have a stack of ancient rare paintings up on the wall. Like they're not even hanging. It's just like a stack of paintings, and like this is the apartment. And I'm like, this is a good apartment. I'm into this. Just a stack of paintings I've gotten out of treasure chests that I didn't know what to do with.
So I was thinking I might go to NES Contra now, but I think I'm actually going to wait until I eat something before I go to NES
Contra. Get your stamina up before you can do that one.
Yeah, because I worry that if I do that without having eaten, I'm going to end up costing myself a whole bunch of money. Which, it's for the charity, but it's also a matter of pride. So, all right, let's see here. So what should I do now?
I should play a Contra game, would be my vote.
Okay, cool.
I've heard good things about this Contra.
Let's do Operation C. Some hot Game Boy action. I like that the background image that they chose is the cover art for Contra 3, the U.S. box art for Contra 3, which is totally fantastic. So Operation C is an interesting little piece of Contra because it's wow, that was horrible. It's the first game in the series that adds a couple of things that sort of became standard later. So like, this is the first Contra game where you start with the machine gun and don't have to get a power-up. This is as you can see just now, this is the first Contra game with a stackable power-up, which didn't come back a whole bunch, but like Contra 4 had stackable power-ups. Wow, that was... The jumping is a bit wonky in Operation C, and you'd think I'd be used to it because I played a bunch of it this week, but apparently not. And it also is the first Contra game to have the homing weapon, which became a bit of a standard later on. So, got some Contra innovations happening in this one. There's also a color version of this, which, if we're getting long in the day and I've played everything else, I might bust out the color version. Because I do have it, but that was a Europe-only thing.
What 4 colors did it use?
So it's a little more than that. It's like a Game Boy Color upgrade. It was part of a collection of... they did 4 collections that were initially released in Japan with Super Game Boy support, and then when they were ported to Europe, they switched out the Super Game Boy support for color, Game Boy Color compatibility. So some people think it's kind of ugly because Game Boy Color games are not, they're often not as color rich as like an NES game, but I think it helps because there's some hazards that are a lot easier to see in the color version. Like, it's a lot easier to distinguish certain stage hazards, particularly in the second to last stage. This is also a really short Contra game. This one only has 5 stages, so if I'm on my game, I should be able to clear this one pretty quickly. I'll have to go back to Super C and clear it later, but I was getting tired of playing the game over and over again. Anything going on in the chat?
Perfidious Leaf says, Joe, I watched your vid about DuckTales, and I'm dying to know.
Dying to know.
Is the next game going to be about Avenging Spirit by any chance?
I will give a charity stream exclusive and say that yes, the next episode of Same Name Different Game is about Avenging Spirit.
Avenging Spirit's so good.
It's so weird, right? Like, it's an awesome concept that I think was never really fully revisited. I guess like Geist for the GameCube sort of revisits that concept. But it's also weird because it's this arcade game, and the only home port that it ever got, it didn't get any weird like European PC ports, it didn't get any console ports, it just has a Game Boy port. Like, that's the only version it got outside of the arcade. But yeah, the whole gimmick is that you can basically, you're a ghost, and you can take possession of any, I guess, you know, in a way, I suppose, and I say that, but Mario Odyssey sort of explored that premise.
True.
In an interesting way. But you can take control of pretty much any enemy character.
They just have Mario slowly die when he hasn't.
Right, yeah, that's the thing. You're on a time where you can only possess someone for so long before they die, I guess, basically, yeah. They don't take control of their body back. They just croak. Just weird. But it's kind of like that scene in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey where Ted possesses his dad. You just jump in and out of people.
And you're extremely cute.
Yes, and you're like a very cute little ghost thing, but you don't see that very much because there's no advantage to staying in ghost form. Also, it has The American box art is just like amazingly ridiculous.
It is.
It looks like it's something about. It looks like it's a gangster related, like it's a Dick Tracy spin-off or something. It's got like a guy in a trench coat with a Tommy gun on the cover.
Well, I mean, he's one of the better guys to grab because you've got like machine gun fire.
Sure, but you are not that. I mean, you can be that guy, but that's like not your character. It gives a very weird sense of, if you're looking at box art and you're like, what am I getting with this game? That's a weird box art that someone thought, like, this communicates accurately what this game is about.
Yeah, like, I actually had it back in the day. I have a copy of Avenging Spirit somewhere, and, like, to this day I don't understand why I ended up with it, because, again, like, that box art is not, like, the kind of game I would have been into, but then, like, you play it and you're like, oh, this is a cute little platformer.
Maybe you saw a review of it or something in, like, EGM, and were like, oh.
I guess. I don't know. But...
Or
it's
maybe
one of those things where like people talk about, oh, here's this weird obscure game, and I'm like, oh, it was obscure. Oh, that's okay.
It's
sure,
also like,
yeah.
if you do still have your cart, you could sell it for quite a bit of money if you were so inclined.
Yeah, I should maybe do that.
Oh yeah, the good firepower up, alive and well. And actually, in this version, it's almost better because the offshoot explosions aren't smaller than the main one like they are in Super C.
So you got the tiny Game Boy screen, that explosion's covering like a huge chunk of it.
Yeah, right. But the homing weapon is like maybe slightly OP in this game, so when it drops, you're generally well advised to grab it because it makes it a lot easier to stay out of harm's way while This is sort of, the Game Boy was sort of a reverse, at least initially, sort of a reverse PS1 situation like we were talking about earlier. Like, Contra on PS1 is terrible and all these other games are great, but Contra on Game Boy is great, and like Castlevania, the first Game Boy Castlevania is like maybe the worst Castlevania game, like maybe even worse than Haunted Castle. It's real bad.
What about that weird remake of it they did on WiiWare?
That's actually really good.
But it's been gone forever.
Castlevania: The Adventure Rebirth is super good. And is also, like you said, gone forever. At least, well, maybe not forever, but at least gone for now, because that was only on WiiWare and the shop's offline now. So
yeah, I would have said a couple of years ago that I thought maybe it would be gone forever, but now that Konami seems at least somewhat interested in re-releasing some of their stuff, maybe it'll appear on something in the not too distant future. That'd be nice.
Like next Sunday AD. I'd really like to see all three of those Rebirth games, like, especially since they're, like, M2 did this collection, so Konami still has a good working relationship with M2. Like, I would really like to see them just put all three of those on a collection for Switch or whatever, and put them back out there, because they're all...
Only if they rename it, like, Rebirth. It's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
That
would be pretty great. And in fact, I'm probably going to play Contra Rebirth at some point today. I do have my Wii U with all my with all three of the Rebirth games are on my Wii U, so
Excellent.
I will probably be playing Contra Rebirth at some point later. Rebirth is a pretty easy Contra game, so that'll probably be like one of the later things when I'm like exhausted and playing even worse than I have been so far today. So, we'll see. This is also kind of a slightly easy... This is an easier one until the very end. Like, I'm actually kind of embarrassed that I had to continue already. But the last stage and the last two stages are, like, kind of rough. But up to there, it's like, there's not a lot to this one.
Alright, I gotta go get a drink and go to the bathroom. I'll be back in a minute.
All right.
He's gone.
That guy, am I right?
I know, right? Just had a lot of good collection. Been nice.
What? Sorry, say again.
Switch has done a lot of good collection stuff. It's been nice, I suppose.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, right? Like, I was really surprised that there were rumors, of course, but you know, with E3, whoever knows about that was not good. Whoever knows about the status of the truthiness of those rumors, right? And there were rumors about that, the Mana Collection, and I was sort of like, I don't know about that. Like, they'd have to localize Seiken Densetsu 3. I just don't know if I see them actually doing that. And then they did, and like, that's kind of ridiculous that
It really is. Like,
that game finally has an official translation.
It's terrible.
Is the translation terrible?
All I know is Charlotte, is that her name? I don't know, the little lightning, like, bright looking lady. Like, they literally, like, write her dialogue is like, I'm going to do this, please.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that sounds terrible, and I don't want to read it on the screen, ever.
This jump
But-
is deceptively difficult. I have heard that her. I didn't play I've played the game a little bit, but not, you know, not as much as some folks have. But I have heard that the fan translation, she was like, they gave her like a kind of annoying vocal tick in that version too. So.
It's such a long time since I played that, so maybe that's what it is. Maybe
It's like a different annoying vocal tick, apparently, but there is also that also exists in that version. All right, so now we're getting to the part where the game starts to get kind of hard. Sorry, I feel like you were about to say something.
Oh, nice. That was always just such a. Yeah, I've played Secret Mana so many times. Like, you know, thing that I always wanted. Now it's there, and I'm like, I have too many games and expensive now.
Yeah.
If it had online play and I could play through Secret Mana for like the 40th time with my brother again online, I probably watch copies with him.
Yeah. So it does not. That is not a feature that's included then, I assume.
No, I don't think so. Not that I could tell. I certainly couldn't tell clear enough. And I'm like, I think they would have advertised it or said on the site that I needed it online or.
You would hope that they would have made that a selling point. Yeah.
I don't know. I'll get it at some point. I'll have to. I was the fool. My foolish high school trade days that people always say I made the wrong choice. I traded my copy of Contra, copy of Secret Mana. No regrets.
I would be inclined to agree with the assessment that was not a good trade, but that's just me.
It probably was, but again, like I had rented and beat Secret Mana so many times, like it was just something that I would know, and like at that point I had game through sometimes. I'm like, okay, sure, and then I played through Secret Mana again. But yeah, no, certainly monetarily, I thought I probably.
I mean, for my part, I just think Chrono Trigger is a better game than Secret of Mana. I mean, I like Secret of Mana, but I think Chrono Trigger is.
You're probably 100% right there. Just a lot of good memories in Spirit. Yeah.
Sure. So another interesting thing about this particular Contra game is that this is the only Contra game I can think of where the spread is the worst power-up. Believe it or not. The fire is just like kind of, and the homing are just both so ridiculously powerful, and I think part of it's because the screen is so small that you don't really need to have the full spread, you know, to get good coverage.
Yeah.
So yeah, the spread is actually like the least desirable. There are only 3 power-ups in this game, so that's also like a factor, right? It's like of the 3 available, you know.
One of them has to be.
Ooh.
Hello?
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Hey, I'm back. I brought my good friend Peanut Butter and Fluff Sandwich with me.
Ooh. Isn't that, strictly speaking, a fluffernutter?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got here just in time for me to reach the final stage of Operation C.
Oh, well, I'm very excited.
Unfortunately, if I die, I think I don't... Maybe I have 1 continue left. I have to use the stage select to go back to stage 4 and do that one over again. So, but I guess you missed that stage because you were making a sandwich and stuff. So maybe that would be fine. Ugh! I just played this game this week and I already forgot about these annoying turrets.
You know what that siren means?
There's fire somewhere near me, unfortunately. Or maybe not a fire, but there is something that requires the attention
We
of the
should
fire
come up with some
department.
kind of a gimmick for that.
Whenever you hear a siren coming from my...
So that way next time I say, you know what that siren means, then that will be a meaningful statement and not just empty rhetoric.
Fair enough.
Siren goes off, you have to start playing a second Contra game at the same time.
That's... Whoa.
And so if you have
Double Contra.
and if you have multiple sirens go off, then you're somehow having to Contras at once. It's gonna be tough.
So I did not have a continue left, which means that now I have to go back to stage 4.
What, is there a stage select code, or
Nope.
is what's...
It's well, in the US version, it's the Konami code.
I see, but you can select the stages of the that you've beaten before or something.
No, it's a straight up stage select in the, but it's
okay.
just in Japanese version, it's just there, and in the US version, it's locked behind a code. But it lets you choose stages 1 through 4, and you have to fight your way through. Yeah, you have to fight your way through stage 4, which I think for a Game Boy game is like perfectly reasonable, right? Because this is in an era before suspend states and all that good shit. So
Yeah.
the idea of like
Or just
let
like,
the
you've got
person-
10 minutes, play your favorite Contra
Yeah,
level.
yeah,
Sorry, play your favorite Operation C level.
yes. Although the Japanese version is just called Contra, but I think that Operation C is a better name because this is not a port of Contra. This is something else. I mentioned earlier, I didn't mention this last time I played through the stage, but when I said, you know, some of the stage hazards are easier to see in the color version, these things that reach out from the walls in this stage, they're a different color than everything else. So even when they're just nested, like, you can see that there's something there in the color version. Also, starting at stage 4 isn't, like, super consequential because, as you can see...
When I was in here, when I was sitting down, so...